my gosh, it is quarter 4, and I'm so excited because that means we're into the second round of the Change Your Life Challenge, and I certainly have things that I want to get done. Hopefully, you're also on board for the challenge with us. If you're not, there is a link to the introduction video in the description, so you can go and check that out at some point if you want to. But too long, didn't read. It is the idea of having one thing, just one thing. Doesn't need to be a laundry list. You don't need as many things as I've got, but one thing that you think that if you applied your efforts to across a 3 month period would have a genuine positive impact on your life. That's the idea. So, as through this challenge, we are working together. We're going to get our thing done. We're going to make progress on it and such. This time around, we have a community that we're building around it over in our kind of like epic goals space, because I figured that having all of our goal related stuff together makes sense. It is a free community, it is a free challenge. We would love to have you with us. But in terms of actually getting ourselves set up, ready, prepared to take the challenge on board, it's good to kind of figure out how that's going to look in your journal, especially because the third part, third step in the challenge is recording your progress. And for a lot of us, recording progress is going to happen in a physical space like our journal. It could also happen in a digital space. It could be done through photographs or like progress vlogs or something if you wanted to. But one of the things that I'm trialing, it's a little bit different to what I've done previously, is just having dedicated task lists and such in my everyday journal dedicated to the different things I'm working on. So for instance, this week, I'm working on an office revamp, which I know that from this angle, it doesn't look all that different, but I promise you, it is looking very different in my space right now. I've already gone through and like moved the movable items, packed down the desk setup, moved the furniture, vacuum, yada yada. So I figured that as I undertake the challenge this time, it would be nice to have these dedicated sections in my journal as I go through, along with the stuff that I have in my goal planner and also along with the weekly priorities lists that have been working really well for me. So in today's stream, what I'm going to be doing is setting up for the rest of October so that I have my goal related sections in there. I've already got my headers printed off and such so that then I can put those things in. Haven't necessarily planned out what the structures are going to look like, so it's going to be a bit of a build the plane as we fly it type deal, but that's okay. Another point for this stream though is that if you have any questions about the challenge, I would love to hear them because I want to make sure that you understand how it works and how to get involved. And if you have any queries about it, I want to kind of help you as much as I can, because as much as the challenge is for me, like, I've got things I want to do. The challenge is also for you. We want you with us. We want you to make progress on those things that you've been saying you're, wanting to do, committed to doing or whatnot. We're actually going to get them done. That's the idea. All right. I was going to go to bed now, but now I don't know what to do. You're allowed to go to bed. We will be here for you on the replay if you want, but it is really exciting to see that we have a decent chunk of people here that aren't usually here because of the time change, because typically speaking, it would be an hour later, I think, for most people, but because of the time change happening in New Zealand a little earlier than everywhere else, it seems, it means that we're just chilling a little bit differently timed to usual. Yeah, see, finally caught a stream type of a deal. Now, where did she say we can find this challenge? It is in the description box. There are 2 links. One of them comes to the introduction video. So just talking about like what the challenge is, how to get involved type of a thing. And the other link, the second link, that is for the community that we are kind of, all posting our progress and our updates in and such. You do not have to be part of the community to join the challenge. You are more than welcome to just do the challenge on your lonesome and such, but I'm a big believer in the idea that things are better with friends, and it's nice to know that you're working alongside other people, even if you're not necessarily working on the same goals. Like, we're all working on different things. Some of us have health goals or finance goals or decluttering goals or creativity goals or whatever else, and even within those different areas, there's a lot of variation, but it's just nice to know that you're not alone in what you're working on, and a lot of the struggles that oftentimes we face in one kind of goal area can be very applicable to other ones. So it's nice to know there are other people who kind of get it. They understand. They know your feels. But in terms of the kind of like questions that I already received, one of the big ones was about the idea of breaking your goals down, because obviously for our challenge, it's going to be across a 3-month period, but oftentimes we have a bigger goal. Yeah. So I got this question a couple times, the idea that I have a big goal, but the challenge only really goes for 3 months. So how do I adjust the goal for the challenge? That's a really good question, because I know that for a lot of us, some of the goals we have are like, I want to move country or something, but I'm not going to do that in the next 3 months. I want to, reach some kind of like health or fitness goal, but getting to that point in a 3-month period in a healthy way, probably not going to happen. So for this, I very much like to think about it in terms of what is a smaller section of the goal that I could work on that could happen in 3 months, or I could make genuine progress on that in 3 months. You can also break it down in terms of like the stages of working on something. Like, for instance, we've got here, need to learn how to lift weight. I could use a mentor. Yeah, maybe your 3-month goal then is just finding a mentor that works well with you, gels well with you, type of a thing. You're not aiming to like deadlift your body weight in 3 months when you've never weightlifted before, but maybe you can start to investigate where you want to lift weights, like who do you want to work with, all of those type of things. So when it comes to tackling the 3-month challenge, it's trying to think reasonably, logically, realistically about what kind of progress could be made across a 3-month period. We want to push ourselves because challenge is good. The mind likes challenge. It gets a kick out of it, a dopamine kick. But in terms of, that overwhelm that can sometimes come with it, we don't want to bite off more than we can chew to the point that it's uncomfortable, like super uncomfortable. Like you're not going to make any progress on it. It's going to be so out of the realm of possibility for you that you're going to be like maybe not. I just won't work on the thing, because that doesn't really help you. Notably, one of the goals for next week is celebrating my birthday. So I already have a space in here for celebrating my birthday. As we go through as well, because I do want to be able to pick out your question and such, I'm not the greatest. We know this about me. I'm not the greatest at being able to read every single thing in a timely manner. So if you do have a question for the challenge as we go through, just put 3 question marks at the front of it so that I can spot it. Obviously, I've already got some questions that were already submitted via like YouTube tabs and Instagram DMs and such. But if you do have a question for the challenge, just put those 3 question marks at the front and I'll be able to spot it a lot easier. Alrighty. So, yeah, birthday buddies. I think that we've got a lot of people who are in October, or I think September is the most populated month for birthdays. So, a lot of birthday celebrations happening around now, which I love. It's the greatest. So, in terms of another question we had, as I go through and start to actually try and think about setting things up, because I've set up to the mid point of my cycle. So 2 weeks is set up, then we have the mid-cycle check-in, then we're going to have week 3 here, which I do have my little header for week 3. And I've got my little section headers as well, priorities, meals, routines, and tasks, because I use the same sections every single time. But another question that we got was, how do you find motivation when in a bad headspace? This is a really great question, especially for the start of the challenge, because oftentimes I feel like when we get started on something, we feel like if we don't make the perfect start, if we don't start in the kind of perfect way, then it means that we're kind of not going to make the progress we're hoping for, which can be true to an extent, especially if we let the imperfections of a start really demotivate us. Like, oh gosh, I only had 4 things that I wanted to work on for this challenge and I didn't even complete 3 of them on day 1. But you are expecting yourself to pick up 4 entirely new things in this hypothetical scenario straight off the bat. There's not a lot of nuance in that, right? So what I find for this one is that if I am in a bad headspace, I just try and take all of the things that I'm trying to work on back to the bare bones, very basics, the smallest, kind of most granular step that I can do, and not necessarily give myself the pressure to do all of them at once. Mainly because if I can successfully complete something and really celebrate having completed that thing, that will build a better kind of motivated headspace for myself, right? Let's think about a more specific example than just the hypotheticals. So let's go and have a look at my habit tracker, for instance. Okay, so my routines that I'm tracking at the moment, I want to be up with my alarm. I want to set a daily highlight for myself, which is essentially the most important thing that I'm doing in the day. I want to have some intentional leisure time, and I want to track my food, right? So maybe if I was getting started with these 100% new, straight off the start of the challenge type thing. A lot of these I've already been building, so they're not completely new to me. But if they were completely new to me, what is the smallest version of this, or the like easiest version of this that I could tackle at the start of the challenge while I'm trying to build momentum for myself? So rather than maybe tracking my food, say, maybe I just track very carefully what I had for breakfast. Or maybe I just track very carefully how much water I got in the day, or something like that. Something that is kind of a smaller part of the whole that I'm trying to build towards. Because once I get that down, once I can feel accomplished from doing that thing, that feeling of accomplishment will help motivate me to do more. It's that idea of action breeds action. It's one of the things that I actually wrote in my goal planner. I think it's the first thing I wrote in my goal planner. Now I feel like I need to go check. My goal planner here is just this separate journal that I have. But oh, I must have written it in the other one. Dang. But it is very much an important kind of like mantra that I have for myself. If I can get myself moving, even if in a really, really small way, that will build the motivation and the momentum that I need to make more progress. So if you're getting started on this challenge and you're feeling like, oh, I don't know, this feels like a bit of a slog. I don't think I'm in the right headspace to do this type of a deal. Completely get it. You know, not every start is going to look the same as everybody else's. Some of us are starting with incredibly high motivation because we are that type of person. When we set goals, we just get super, super excited about it. But for other people, life be lifing. There's other stuff going on. So how can you make it easier for yourself? How can you make it smaller for yourself? So then by getting that stuff done, you build those little wins that builds the motivation to build up more stuff. Yeah? So starting small, I know that it's like, oh wow, what a novel idea. But just because we know something doesn't mean we apply it, right? Every time I tell myself like, okay, I know that starting small is going to be the best thing for me. I know that that's really going to be something that will help build the momentum I'm looking for. I still bite off more than I can chew, but I'm also the kind of person who likes to have a lot to chew, I guess. Alrighty. So good question. What if you don't know how to record your progress? So this one for me, it's very much important about like where is recording the information going to be, one, the most easy to access, two, the most likely that I actually update it, and three, the most motivating for me. Because part of the reason that we're recording progress and part of the reason that is an important part of the challenge is so that then you can see that you are making progress. If you're recording it somewhere that you don't actually go back and check in with and view, then it's not really going to be the most helpful spot for it. I'm going to find which paper I want to use for the corners because these patterns are all slightly different and I don't want to use the same one as last time. Maybe this one? That's kind of cute. Chuck that up in a corner and maybe down the bottom here. So in terms of thinking about like how to record the progress you're making, I find that it very much depends on the type of goal. If it is a goal that's very kind of visually based and you'll be able to see the progress, like for instance, reorganizing my office, like looking at the layout of the office before versus the layout now, that is going to be visual progress that I could snap a photo of. That will be able to be progress that I can very easily visually see through either a photo or through, progress video or something like that. If it's something that's not super visual, for instance, like decluttering your digital files, coming and sitting at your computer outside of having a clean desktop, maybe there's not a lot of visual that goes with that to show that you're making progress. That is where I would be relying on a checklist or something else that I can make visual that can show that I'm making progress on the thing. So for me, that'll probably be a checklist, like I said, because I love a checklist. But you could also do it in terms of some kind of a numeric count or a tally or something like that. Again, put in a spot that you're actually going to reference and look at. Apologies if you can hear my ripping noises. I'm ripping up the paper so that I can stick it on the page. But thinking about those numeric ones, you could put it in some kind of like a graph or a chart, or it could be done in a physical space. I know a lot of people prefer a physical-based progress kind of tracker. So that could be, for instance, having sticky notes on a wall that you take down as you do something. I'm very much considering the sticky notes on a wall approach for my weight loss and being able to very clearly see like how far along I am in terms of the goal that I've got for myself with that. or it could be beads in a jar. I know some people have like a 2-jar system. They have all of the beads start in one, and then as they do some small increment, they move bead from the to-do jar into the done jar. And then you can kind of see how the levels of those change over time to show your progress. It's really just finding something that is going to be motivating for you. You can very clearly see the progress that you're making with it, because that's why we're keeping track of the progress, and something you will actually keep track of. Like, you'll actually check in with it. Because if you're not going to check in with it, then there's not a lot of point in tracking the data. I don't want us to be tracking things in a pointless manner, because we have enough stuff to do in life. We don't have to go and worry about all these other things as well. Also, as we go through, Tink, what are we drinking? I'm having water today from my new water bottle, which I love so much. It has just made my life so much better because I'm actually drinking water again. Alrighty, next question. Poink, put my bottle down. So, do we need to have a progress tracker? I'm not going to make you. I'm not going to make you do anything. I'm not your manager. But I will say that you are going to be a lot more motivated to work on the stuff that is, in theory, important to us. In theory, the stuff that we want to accomplish and whatnot. You're going to be a lot more likely to get it done if you have some way to keep track of your progress. Because otherwise, what happens is that we get into the middle, the slog, the dip, or whatnot. And if we can't very easily see the progress we've already made, it can be a lot easier to quit. It can be a lot easier to be like, oh, well, I guess this was just like too hard for me. I'll just write it off type of a thing. That's why I love things like the don't break the chain type method as well for routine building and whatnot. Yesterday, for instance, it was raining and it was cold, and I was supposed to go hang out with my friends. And so I hadn't done my exercise yet, and I've been keeping this streak of doing exercise. So I asked them, like, hey guys, do you want to come for a walk with me? Because then at least I'll have somebody hold me accountable to getting my walk in. Thankfully, they said yes. I got to my friend's house to do the walk, and it started raining. I'm like, no, why? Everything was going so well. But because I had that don't break the streak mentality, I'm like, okay, regardless of what happens here, I will just go home and do a walk by myself if I need to, because I want to keep the streak alive. And that is something that helps me keep going. It's that kind of set kind of measure of my progress that says, no, you've gotten X many days in a row, let's keep going. Do I need to exercise every single day? No, I don't. But I do want to try making sure that that is something I'm doing, because if I break the chain, especially if I break the chain and then do another day of not doing the exercise, I've started a new chain and the chain is not doing exercise. And I don't want to do that to myself. Alrighty, so scrolling through because I can see them question marks and I want to collect them for you. And then after I answer the next question, I'm going to make sure I write down a table in here because I need to make sure I also set myself up. All right, there we go. Question. I stare at my bullet journal. I have no idea how to start. I get overwhelmed easily and make it too complicated. How do I keep it manageable and not get overwhelmed? That's a good question. I think that for me, it's usually just starting in pencil, because then at least anything I put in there, I know doesn't have to be permanent. It doesn't have to stay if I don't end up liking it. So that kind of helps in terms of just taking the pressure off a little bit. Also in terms of, getting it overwhelmed easily and making it too complicated. What you can think about in terms of, if you have a tendency to overcomplicate things, can relate. Love that for us. Try and pick just one part to overcomplicate. Like, the rest of it, we can keep super simple stuff. The rest of it is going to be okay, but there's one part that we can overcomplicate. For instance, for me, that would be like maybe my decoration. I'm overcomplicating the kind of like layering and placement of this. Sure, I could have just put a sticker down, but I'm like, no, I want to have the paper and I want to have the little dots and I want to have the stars and sparkles and then I want to have the sticker. So making that a little bit more complicated or a little bit more complex compared to the basic bones of everything else. That can be something you try. Also, another way to I guess, like, remove that overwhelm or whatnot, is to make it complicated, but keep the number of sections that you're setting up smaller. So for me, that would be not using a kind of monthly dashboard type layout. That would be not putting in monthly trackers and all of that type of stuff. One, because I know I'm not going to use them. So that's definitely part of it. But also it means that then the efforts that I would be applying to my journal, I can apply them to a smaller number of pages. So I don't have to get quite as overwhelmed because I'm not giving myself 5 different layouts to make. I'm just going to do 3 layouts and make them a little bit more decorative or like labor heavy or whatnot. So same amount of time taken, just with that effort applied to a smaller number of pages. That could be one possible way. But the biggest thing is just like start with pencil first, because then it takes the pressure off. Everything is easier. I also find that if you don't want to start with pencil because you don't want to have the idea of having to erase things and pen things in over the top of the pencil and then erase the pencil, and then you haven't let the ink dry long enough and now you're smudging your journal and now you're sad about it, just totally happens, can relate to that as well. What I will sometimes do is just go in with pen anyways, with the full knowledge that I know how to fix mistakes. Because if you know how to fix mistakes, then the mistakes don't matter. There's not a lot you can do to a journal that is not fixable. For instance, like if I have completely stuffed this page up, if I got to the end of this page, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awful, I hate this. At the end of the day, I can just stick the pages together and move on to the next one. I'll just start again. It's all good. Yes, this one will be a little bit thick. It's cool. It can just be a relic, a reminder of that time I made something I didn't like, but I don't have to see it anymore. No harm, no foul. If you do want to be able to see it again, you can also just washi tape the edge of the pages together rather than sticking the full pages together. But small fixes like putting over a tape or a sticker, or maybe some whiteout if that's your kind of preference, a white gel pen, putting in a little white sticker label if you want to have, one piece of line work that didn't really work out. That's definitely something that has happened to me before, like recently. I put a black line in here and then I had this weird awkward box of space that I was like, I'm not doing anything with this. So put in a little white sticker and then just kept on with my box. Not too bad. If you know how to fix mistakes, mistakes really aren't that bad. But I need to stick in my paper. Alrighty. I probably should have gotten myself a proper glue stick thing. What am I thinking about? When you put glue stick on the back of a piece of paper, but you don't want to get the glue on the things underneath it, so you have like a separate piece of paper? That's what I should have had. But in the rearranging of my office, I don't have my rubbish bin in here anymore, so I don't have one easily accessible. But I am going to start with, I think, my meal planning section, because one of my goals for this quarter, or one of my goals for every quarter, is to maintain my nutritious eating, which definitely did not happen towards the end of last quarter. So Sunday, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, she knows what day comes before Friday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. And then BLD for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Another thing that can definitely help with taking away some overwhelm is just having set structures that you like and use them repeatedly. For me, that is my general kind of weekly dashboard. I just rearrange the elements so that then it feels a little bit new and fresh every single time. I'll do something a little different with the decoration, and then it still feels novel, still feels a little bit different, but it doesn't take me an age to get it done. Let's see. So let's go measure up how much space I used for the last one, because otherwise I might put in the wrong amount of space. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. 5 across, 1 centimeter gap, 5 across. That makes sense. And priorities and meals, I did the same size. Here I used a header. I don't remember if I used a header on the last one. I didn't use a header here, but that's because I wanted more decoration space. So we don't need a header. Header isn't necessary. All good. And I've just been freehanding my lines because I'm feeling adventurous like that. I don't mind that they look a little bit sketchy. If you build that kind of mess into the design elements of the layout, then you don't have to use a ruler. It just makes life a little easier. I know for some people the idea of free-handing lines, though, is the most upsetting. That was me. I was a big fan of a ruler. I'm still a big fan of a ruler, but I've been finding that if I kind of build it into the design, it doesn't bother me so much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put that one there. And meow, meow. There we go. Alrighty, as we do this, I'm going to go and find us another question. As said at the start, just make sure that if you are sending through a question that you want me to answer, especially in terms of the Change Your Life Challenge, because that's the main focus for this one, is just put 3 question marks at the start so that I can really easily spot it, because I'm a slow reader. It takes me a while. All right, we'll get rid of that one. We already did that question. Alrighty. Building on that question, how to record. How can you pick which ones to record or which steps to take without it being overwhelming, especially when first getting started? Good question. So I'm just going to reread it for myself so that I make sure I pick up the right end of the stick here. So how do you pick which ones to record or which steps to take without it being overwhelming, especially when first getting started? So I kind of consider that as 2 separate questions, like which ones to record and then which steps to take, because the way that you record the challenge kind of like outcomes or whatnot isn't necessarily specifically aligned with the steps. So for instance, if we think about a weight loss one, because that one's kind of easy, the action is not lose a kilo, because you can't really, the way that I like to think about it, if I can wake up and just decide to do the thing, then it is an action step. If I can't just wake up and decide to do the thing, then it is not an action step. So for a weight loss goal, I cannot just wake up and be like, I'm going to weigh a kilo less today. I can be like, I'm going to chop off my hand and that'll probably help me lose weight. I'm not going to chop off my hand. Sounds like a silly idea in terms of weight loss, but hopefully you kind of get the idea, right? So in thinking about the progress that I'm tracking, because it is not always going to be the same as the action steps, you need to be thinking about how does like tracking that data make sense for that thing. So for the weight loss goal, that one being the kind of example we're working with here, that one I'm going to be tracking separate to the action steps, because the action steps for a weight loss goal would be like, do your daily exercise, make sure you're eating nutritiously, get your sleep, get your water, that kind of thing. I can keep track of those action steps, but because the end goal that I'm looking for there is weight loss, I'm more likely to keep track of the number on the scale. Yes, there are other metrics that you can use for getting slimmer and smaller, but I find step onto scale, record number, way easier. It's picking something that doesn't feel overwhelming to track as well, because I know that for those kind of like health related weight loss type goals, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to say it, you should be tracking it in terms of your size or your, body measurements in terms of get out a tape measure and that kind of thing. Sure, I could, but I'm not going to because the idea of having to do that, there's a lot more effort that has to go into that rather than step on scale, record number. So it's finding a metric that you can track that is aligned with what you want for yourself, that is still within the realm of your kind of like energy to expend on tracking the thing, if that kind of makes sense. If we think about it in terms of, let's say, writing a book or whatnot, for some people, if they're writing a book, they might find the page count more motivating than the word count, or like the number of chapters drafted versus the overall word count. Because for some people, they don't really give a toss how many words their book is. They care about telling the complete story in however many words that takes to tell. Yeah. So maybe it's the sections of the book or the kind of like specific parts within that story that they've managed to draft. Maybe keeping track of that is more important to them. So finding a tracking or like a metric to track rather that is actually motivating, because if it is motivating to keep track of it, then you are more likely to keep track of it. It also feels like it takes less energy to keep track of that thing. If I was saying that for my weight loss goal, I was going to be keeping track of measuring tape measurements rather than weight measurements, the measuring tape measurements being more difficult for me to keep track of and being somewhat less, not necessarily less motivating, but not motivating enough to warrant putting the effort in. That kind of makes sense. We want to find a metric that fits what we want for ourselves. It aligns with whatever goal we have, but it is still within the realm of the energy we're willing to expend to keep track of, and it is motivating. So it really depends on what goal you're working on, obviously. There's a lot of nuance to this, but hopefully that kind of makes sense. If we think about it in terms of a goal where the actions and the like metrics of success or whatnot are the same, then keeping track of it in terms of a checklist and just like how many tasks have I checked off, that can totally work. That's great. So for instance, in terms of my office reorganization goal, that is one where I have just listed out the stuff to do, and keeping track of having done that stuff is sufficient for me. But I also have a really big, nice metric of progress, which is the way my office looks and feels. Like right now, my desk is in a different spot, my shelves are in a different spot, everything is totally a mess because nothing's been put back yet, but I can very easily see that I'm making progress on that project. It doesn't really need there to be something that I kind of document or keep track of. So if you can very easily see the progress you're making, then you don't really need to go to extra steps to kind of like write down or acknowledge that progress that's being made. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. And hopefully that kind of answers your question. I feel like I probably got lost in the weeds there somewhere, but I do hope it was helpful. So let's see. Next question. All right. How do you reset when you have a major life situation, in my case, the death of a family member, throws off your entire plan and rails for several weeks, off the rails for several weeks? First of all, I'm really sorry to hear about that. That is really rough because, just because we have big goals for ourselves doesn't mean that there isn't other stuff going on. I think that in terms of those ones, like especially situations where there's grief involved as well, it's really making sure that you give yourself the room to deal with that. Grief doesn't really stop. We just grow around our grief is something that a lot of people say. But making sure that you acknowledge the fact that you will not have, likely, the same amount of energy or spoons to give or bandwidth, whatever kind of metric you like to use there. You probably won't have the amount that you're hoping for when coming into a challenge like this. And that is actually fine. You're allowed to be a human. You're allowed to be a person. We all are, regardless of what situation we're going through. But those kind of things will definitely pull focus and mean that we won't have the same amount of time, effort, energy to give to our goals. So giving ourselves grace in that, it can be difficult, especially when you do have big goals for yourself and you have these things that you wanted to work on and you were really excited about them and such, and then life throws you a curveball. It's all good to move the deadline. I just don't like to lower the goalpost, If my goal is, for instance, we'll just do the writing a book one. My goal is not to write a book. I know I use it a lot as an example, but that's because I watch too much Sarah Cannon. We love Sarah, but I probably don't watch too much. I just watch enough. But anyways, so if the goal is to write a book, we don't want to kind of lower the bar of saying like, oh, okay, well, I guess I won't write the story that my heart is singing about. I'll just write like a little novella that wasn't really what I wanted to write or whatnot. I would just push the deadline out. Let yourself have the space that you need to process the feelings that you need to have, and make, if we're thinking about it for the challenge specifically, make your expectations for the challenge smaller. So still heading in the same direction that you want to be, you might just not get to the exact outcome that you were hoping for across that 3-month period. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Obviously, there are different types of curveballs that life can throw us and such, and the way that we respond to those might be a little bit different. But for everything, for any endeavor, it's good to remember that oftentimes our ideals, the kind of perfect scenarios we have in our heads, or the perfect plans we've made for ourselves, like I'm going to get up on day one and I'm going to do these 10 new habits that are completely new to me and I'm going to be my perfect person, perfect version of me. Nah. But that's okay, because we're not aiming for perfection here. We're aiming for progress, and progress is allowed to be small and progress is allowed to be slow. We're allowed to take our time with it, because at the end of the day, as long as we're moving in the direction that we want to be, that's really what matters. Anywho, tink. Make sure that you're drinking your water or whatever it is you want to drink. I'm not your manager. You're allowed to have whatever beverage you want. Let me know what you're drinking. Alrighty. Putting that one away. And we've got our meals in. Love that. The other side is going to be our priorities. And by our priorities, I mean my priorities, because my priorities are different to yours, most likely. But Another question. So, how can you pick actions or steps to track without it being overwhelming, especially when first getting started? I think that was the same question from before, but you've just moved the question marks because you're great at following instructions. I appreciate you. So we're going to skedoodle on to the next one. Would setting up a DIY pre-printed planner possibly help me balance my want for decoration but lack of setup time? Feels silly, but it feels like cheating. No, you can totally do that. Your planner has to work for you. And if doing a pre-printed DIY system works for you, then more power to you. Like, technically speaking, given the fact that I use the same sections pretty much every week with the, slight change up of the positioning or whatnot, I could totally do that. I don't, because I really just love working in a doc or a notebook, and I love the flexibility of having, as many pages as I need to for my daily logs and such. But I don't think there is any cheating when it comes to making your planner, whether that is like, a pre-printed one that you then kind of Frankenstein the heck out of and turn into some kind of like amalgamated mess of a whole bunch of different things. If it works for you, if it is helping fulfill the purpose that you have given it, it is perfect. That is what I personally believe. I I would just prefer that people actually use their journals and use their planners to do whatever it is they want to do, rather than feel like they have to, meet some kind of like standard or ideal or whatnot. For me, I set mine up myself because I love the process. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy being able to chop and change things and all of that type of a thing. Other people, they're like, nah, don't really care for that, but I love to sticker things. I love putting stickers all over everything. And if that's going to like, spark joy for them and be their happy place, then more power to them. So there is no cheating. It is all good. You can totally do that. And I would love to see it when you do. I hope that answers your question. But I think it's also the kind of thing that oftentimes when it comes to certain planner systems or whatnot, even though, logically we know there are no rules, and logically we know you can do whatever you want and such, sometimes it's just nice to have somebody else tell us that we can do the thing. So let me put it here, and I will definitely tell everybody again later at some point. This is not going to be the final time I say this, but I give you blanket permission to do whatever you want in your journal to make it work for you. Blanket permission, all right? If that means sticking stickers all over the heck of it because you love the way it looks and it sparks joy, yeah. If that means going bare bones and just using one pen and that pen is in orange, choices, bro, but it is your planner, and if that works for you, I am so pumped because orange is not my color. If it's yellow and you can barely see what's written, but you're still happy about it, cool, all goods, as long as it fills the purpose that you are giving it. Whether that purpose is organization or kind of just scheduling stuff, or if it's memory keeping, all goods. Or if it's sticker bombing just because it's fun, you love it, that's also cool with me. No harm, no foul. But I'm going to put these lines in and attempt to do it with a straight hand so that then I don't have a shaky, janky, wobbly mess, because that would not spark joy. Even though I like the hand-drawn look at the moment, I still don't love it when it's completely cattywampus. I want straight lines to write on. That makes my heart happy. But we'll put these ones in, and we'll find us another question. Thank you for your questions, by the way. I do very much appreciate them. It's a lot more fun doing a Q&A when there are actually Qs to A. So, yeah, it's very much appreciated. Meow. Yep, that's the official noise of the lines. Meow. I always find when I get to this part, I start to paper cut myself because I use the side of the journal to steady my hand, and I end up just carving up the side of my finger because paper be like that. Meow. Of course, you don't have to use the side of your journal to guide your hand, but I do find it makes it just a little bit easier. There we go. All right. So, do you think an Alastair method would work as a tracker? Definitely, especially if you're thinking about it in terms of mapping tasks to certain weeks. That is what I like to do in my goal journal. My goal planner is mainly based around the Alastair method. So if we go and have a look, say at this one, see? So in terms of my column headers, I use the week numbers. So this quarter is going across week 40 to week 52. I've put in some little divider lines just so I can see where the cycles are. I don't know how visible they are for you guys. I'll just bring this a little closer. Yeah. So little divider lines to say this is cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3, and then reset week. And then I just put a dot underneath the relevant week to say when I'm going to do the thing. You can also use the Alastair method in terms of tracking for, say, a routine-based one. So routine-based one, so like exercise 7 days a week. I'll cross it off if I exercise 7 days that week. Meal plan for this week. I'll cross it off if I meal plan for that week. I haven't tied them to specific weeks because I want them to be done every week. So that definitely can make for a good tracker, and that is how I like to do mine. Make sure we refreeze that, otherwise we'll have a sad times. All right. I want to pay off my credit cards. How do you recommend me to track my progress? Ooh, I love it. So depending on what makes your heart happy, because again, we want you to find a tracking method that works well for you. I know that for me, a tracking method that works well for anything money related is Excel, but I also know that Excel is not for everybody. Excel is my first love, my one true love. And I also just love that it can do the math for me. So if I'm putting in, oh yeah, I chucked, X amount of dollars towards my credit card bill, it can go and do the math. I don't have to go and do anything specific about that. This could be another one, though, that maybe you just don't think to open Excel. Maybe Excel is not your program. Maybe Google Sheets isn't your friend either. Maybe you prefer something that is going to be in a more kind of physical space that you can see very easily, very visually kind of a thing. So maybe that's where the sticky notes on the wall approach would help. For me, if I was doing something that was not in my Excel space for that, I would probably end up setting up some kind of tracker in my journal. I'm going to see if I can find you an example. Let me just skedoodle away for a second. Skedoodling. Meow, meow. Which journal is it in, though? That's the real question, because I have a few of those now. We'll just pick up this one as a general example, and then we'll talk about this layout and how it could work. Okay. So, depending on how you want to approach this, there are a couple different ways you could go about it. I'll just scoot this one out of the way. So if we're thinking about it in terms of like a graphical kind of tracker, you could do some kind of a graph. This one was my savings tracker. So it's like how much money came in, how much money went out, yada, yada. So this one wasn't specifically for paying off a debt, but you could do it in some kind of bar graph of like hey, this week I paid off this much. This week I paid off this much. Because it's a 3-month challenge, you'd only have 3 bars if you did it monthly. That's totally fine to do if that's going to be okay for your head. But if you'd prefer to have more bars, then maybe you do 1 for each week of the challenge. So you'd have 13 bars that you can then say like, oh yeah, this is how much I paid off. This is how much I paid off. This is how much I paid off. If you want to see it as kind of like more of a running total, maybe you could do it as a line graph. I feel like I need to have another piece of paper so I can scribble. I'm going to go get a scribble paper in a second. So that could be something. If you want to try and chip away at it like a little bit every single day, maybe you have a pixels type method where you have a little box for each day of the challenge, and maybe you color in to say how much you paid off on that day. It just depends on what is going to be more motivating for you. If it's more motivating to see the overall total go down, then maybe a line graph would be really helpful because you can very easily see that kind of approach the baseline or approach zero. If it's more about that habit of paying it off in kind of those bite-sized increments, then maybe something like this would be better. It doesn't necessarily give you the kind of running total or anything like that, but it just shows your personal application towards paying that off. So if that's the thing that's motivating to you, then maybe that one's better. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, it's really just, it's always, for everything that we're tracking, it's really just about finding the thing that is going to be motivating for us to track, the thing that gives us the good feelings that helps us keep going. So for me personally, it would be the kind of like decreasing of the number. That one would be the most helpful for me. Alrighty. We also had a question from before, which was, what is the Alastair method? Hopefully I kind of explained that in the last example so that you kind of understand how that one works. I don't know if I've used it in here. So I don't know if I can show you in this journal in particular, just while we're sitting in here. I don't think I used it yet for this one. But the general idea of the Alastair method is that it is a way to structure information. It's essentially, it's like, well, that just fell off the desk. It's cool. She's fine. It's a fancy table, essentially. So the way that I'm using the fancy table is in the sense of having the week numbers, the tasks, and then mapping things to the week numbers. But more commonly, people will use the Alastair method for a weekly list. That's also something that I use the Alastair method for. So we have the list of things that need to be done, or the list of tasks, and then we have a column which has the initials for each of the days of the week. So for me, that's Monday through to Sunday. Each of those columns, though, is just somewhere that you can put in a dot to tie one of those tasks to a particular day of the week. So for instance, laundry for me, that is a Monday task. So at the start of the week, I put a dot underneath the M for Monday, and then once I'd done it, I crossed it off. That means that when I get to any day in the week, I can just look at the relevant column and say, okay, here are all of my things to do on a Wednesday. Here are all of my things to do on a Thursday. This kind of style is nice for me to use for my weekly task list because I typically use daily logs. I don't have, for instance, like today is Thursday, I don't have Saturday set up yet. So if there's something that I think of, I'm like, ooh, I need to do that on Saturday, I can write it on my weekly task list and just put a little dot underneath the Saturday header. Hopefully that system kind of makes sense to you, because I personally love it. I find that it has a lot of applications. Obviously here I'm using it on a weekly timeline. In my goal planner, I'm using it on a quarterly or like 3-month timeline, but you can also use it for a future log where you have each of the headers is the like initial of a month. So like J, January, F, February, so on and so forth. And then possibly instead of putting a dot underneath that header, you could put in a number for the day. So it's like if something's happening on January 15th, underneath the J column, you would write 15. And then across from that, you would write the happening that was going on. It does have a lot of applications. And we do have a separate video on the channel that talks more about it and how you can actually use that. Do you have a book that you recommend? If the book was a video, yes, it is my video. I don't think there's an actual book. It was, I think, initially shown in a blog post by Mr. Alastair, ? I can't remember what his actual name was, but yeah, he has a blog post on it. And then on the channel, we do have a video that is about the Alastair method and shows you some different ways that you can use it. So, I mean, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I'd recommend that one. But let's see. Alrighty, another question. Scrolling up because I feel like I missed some, and I apologize if I missed your question. I promise I'll get to it, unless I don't, and then I'll tell you that I missed it and I'm sorry. So can you share your Excel formula that you use to figure out your steps needed daily to keep your monthly average? Yeah, sure. We're going to scoot this one to the side because I feel like I'm going to need a piece of paper. Okay, I'm going to get a piece of paper because it's going to be a lot easier to scribble if I have a scribble pad. All right, so if we're thinking about the daily average, steps needed daily to keep your monthly average, I found that I had to go and update mine every day because I was a fool, but there is definitely an easier way to do this. So, in fact, I feel like in this one I should probably just take you into Excel and show you. We do love Excel for that. Alrighty. Do I still have my average step count sheet, or did I already delete it? Yeah, you're gone from there. I think I must have already deleted it. So we're just going to make a new sheet for you, and we're going to show you in a new sheet. All right. Share the screen so that we can have a little snoop on it. All right. So scrolling. Trying to make sure that I have space to work here because I'm now over here for my computer as opposed to over there because I moved stuff around on my desk. But the way that I would do this is that we would have a column for steps. And so you can say like how many steps you got in that day. So I don't know, let's just say we got 6,000 on one day and then that many the next day and then this many the next day or whatnot. And we're going to say that the average we're hoping for, I'm just going to insert something here. So the target is 8,000 and then maybe like days remaining You can either put that in as a set number, or you could set up a formula to put that in if you wanted to. Let's say that we're just going to have 87 days remaining or whatnot. So needed daily. The sum, or the function that I would put in here would probably be equals to start with, because that tells Excel that we need a formula. We are going to be doing that value times by the number of days in the challenge, which, given that it is October, November, December, is 31 plus 30 plus 31. You could also just put the number in. You don't have to do that kind of math. If you can figure out 31 plus 30 plus 31, you're fine then. So that's going to be how many steps I need total for the entire of the challenge, then minus however many I've got so far. So the sum of, and I'd highlight all of the cells for all of the data I'm going to put in. And so that one there is going to tell me, like, how many steps total do I need to get for the rest of the challenge to be able to get all of my steps, minus the, or rather, sorry, I'm doing this on the fly, so like I'm probably not making a lot of sense, to be completely honest. So what do we say? This one is the total number of steps for the challenge minus the number gotten so far divided by how many days are remaining. There we go. That's better. So according to this, based on the number I've gotten so far and based on the idea of having 87 days remaining, which isn't quite correct, that would probably be more like 88 or something, then it would tell me, oh yeah, look, if you want to get 8,000 steps a day, you do need to do this every single day. I'm going to copy this across so that then you can use this, but make sure that you update it for your own cells and you don't have to have 31 plus 30 plus 31. You can just put in 92. Again, if you can do that kind of math in your head on the fly. Obviously, I can't. But hopefully that helps. I found that I started getting quite granular with it, and mine also probably looked a little bit more complicated than it needed to, because I didn't go and put in the daily steps. I went and put in like weekly averages that I already had. So if this was, the weekly average, I had that one times by 7 to say, okay, across the week I got 42,000 steps or whatnot. But if you're keeping track of it on a day-to-day type basis, then that should hopefully work. Yeah, hopefully that helps. As said, I love Excel. I don't usually make Excel formulas when I'm talking on a stream on the fly, though, so apologies if that was just like completely not interesting to some of you. But Excel is beautiful. We love Excel. And by that I mean I love Excel. Gorgeous. But let's see. So scrolling back to make sure that we can find some questions for ourselves. And making sure that I get rid of the ones that I have already answered. So, do you have any tips for building self-confidence? That one's tricky because it really depends on what you're trying to build confidence in. But for the most part, I guess it would be, how can I like apply my strengths to any situation I'm in? Like if there's something that you know you're good at, and don't lie, there is something you know you're good at. I'm not going to have you sit there and say you're not good at anything. I'm not just talking to you, Missy. I'm talking to all of us, right? There are things you're good at and you are allowed to toot your own horn. It's okay, right? Nobody's going to judge you for feeling good about yourself right now. You're allowed to do that. So thinking about the stuff you're good at, thinking about your strengths or whatnot, trying to bring those to any new situation to make yourself feel more confident in it can be a good way forward. Also, just remembering you're allowed to be a learner. You're allowed to suck at stuff. Otherwise, how are you going to develop new skills? And you're just going to stay stagnant for the rest of forever? I don't think so, buddy. We got life to live here. But given the fact that we're allowed to be a learner, and given the fact that we're allowed to suck at things before we get good at them, we just have to do the reps, right? That idea of that repeated practice will build confidence. So if it's public speaking, ew, hate that for us. But the more we do it, the more we will feel confident about it. What you can also do while you're in the stages of, just trying to practice the thing rather than being actually good and confident at the thing, is just pretend to be somebody who is good at the thing. Or you can ask it in a different question to yourself. Like, what would someone who is good at or excited to do XYZ do differently here? So what is kind of the way that somebody who, if we keep on the idea of public speaking, how would somebody who's good at public speaking or excited about public speaking approach this opportunity? What would they do in this situation? I'm going to do that. Uh, so in terms of the public speaking thing, maybe they would, stand with their shoulders back. They would stand tall. They would feel their presence in the room. Did I just sit up straight to say that? Yes, I did. The posture's like, ooh, what's this? Go back to your hunched over position, please. It's a lot easier to make straight line work when you're really close to the page. But maybe they would, take a deep breath before they start speaking so that they know they're not going to run out of breath halfway through. Maybe they would kind of pause at the end of each sentence so people can really feel their words or whatnot. I'm not that person. I'm just going to, spout everything off really, really quickly and hope that I'm making sense as I go through. But in thinking about how would the confident person approach this? How would the person who is good at this approach this? We're not trying to make claims that we're better than we actually are, but it's more so just getting ourselves in that mindset of being more confident in the situation. Obviously, it depends on what it is you're looking at, what it is you're looking to tackle, but that idea of fake it till you make it can actually be a very powerful tip. And I know as we go through this, there's probably a lot of times you're like, yeah, but Jess, I know that. And like we said at the start, knowing something and doing something is different, right? We know that we are, going to have a better time in life if we move our bodies and we eat nutritionally and we avoid XYZ of a food and all of this kind of thing. Doesn't mean we always do it. And I'm not trying to shame you. I'm not trying to be here like, Jessica here is the pinnacle of health and she is the be all and know all and eat an apple and yada yada kind of a thing. But I do think that just because we know something doesn't mean we necessarily do that thing. So just because I know how to in theory, how to be more confident about public speaking doesn't mean I necessarily approach public speaking in that way. Public speaking and Jess don't really get along. I know that may come as a surprise because some people view this as public speaking. To me, I am talking to myself in my bedroom, but also have the privilege of being able to read your comments. I love that. This is the kind of public speaking I can get behind because it feels way safer than actually being on a stage. Ooh, being on a stage is scary. It's too scary. But I'm glad that it was helpful and the repetitive action to build confidence. I like that is something that kind of stood out to you as a positive takeaway. Because, yeah, it's the idea of for the most part, there is very few things in this life that we are 100% great at the first time we try them. If anybody here has managed to crack the code on being perfect at every single thing you try, first of all, you're probably not trying enough. Secondly, what are your secrets? Please tell me. But just remembering that we are allowed to be a learner and we're allowed to take time with things, that I find very helpful. It's all good because sucking at something is the first step to getting good at it, right? I think that's the idea. But we're going to stick this paper in the corner. And we're going to try and not make it too close to the meal's header, otherwise the proximity will annoy me. There we go. And we're going to need some more glue in this corner because it keeps peeling up. Yeah, you've never had a problem with public speaking? What are your secrets? Yeah, no, I get way too in my head and just concerned about how every little phrase is going to come out and whether I'm going to have the right tone for anything that I'm saying. But yeah. Alrighty. How would you go about a revamp with having time constraints looming where it must get done at a certain time? Good question. I guess it probably depends specifically on the situation, but for me it would be considering in MVP, minimum viable product, or what is the baseline that I can hit with this? What is the kind of lowest version of this that I can reasonably kind of put forward for a thing, if that kind of makes sense. I feel like I need to talk about it in terms of an example, right? So in getting my office set up, because I want to do this office revamp project. I want to, move my furniture around and all of this and then get it set up in a nice way. The deadline I had for myself was today, in the sense that I needed to have my desk set up at the very least, minimum viable product. Okay. I had to have my desk set up to do this stream. Otherwise there would be no stream. So I finished my office setup? No. But the part that I had a deadline, the part that was most necessary to get done by that deadline, I prioritized and I did. So I haven't bought all of my little pen drawers and kind of set up my desktop perfectly. I haven't rearranged the drawers in my drawers, the drawers in my drawers, because I, now I'm going to have my printer in a different spot. So having the drawers over there for the printing materials makes sense. Those have not been moved. Nothing like that has been done. I I haven't even brought my recycling bin into the office yet, which obviously is somewhat of a problem because I kind of needed some extra paper before. But thinking about what is the minimum that I can have, or what is the minimum that is necessary to be able to say that, like, this is good enough at this stage. That is something that I usually am looking for. So for me, for the office organization, the minimum was having this camera, this background, these lights set up so that I could stream and we could be here together today. For my birthday party next week, the minimum there is that we have an activity. I have the movies ready because we're going to be having a little movie marathon. I have the movies. I have the activity plan for us, which is going to be doing cozy coloring. And I have at least one snack contribution. Like, that is the minimum. If I do better than that, which I do hope to, it would be nice to do that. I would like to have more there. But as long as I have the minimum, then everybody's going to have a cozy and comfortable and enjoyable time. Talking about cozy and comfortable, my heater is on. I'm going to go turn it off because now I'm too cozy. Meow, meow. There we go. Much better. Much better. I feel like this one is a very related question. So, how do you determine your minimums? I feel like I can't do that because I can be an all or nothing person. Just because something is a minimum doesn't mean it is the end kind of like target that I'm aiming for, right? Like, today I have met my minimum. Today I have met the minimum of having the desk set up so that I can film the thing. That is not where I'm going to leave it though. So I guess for this one, it's really just giving yourself those kind of like smaller deadlines to hit so that then you don't think that you have to do the whole thing in a smaller amount of time. So I did not have to have my entire office set up by Thursday morning. One, it would have been unreasonable. Two, if I did try to make it happen, I would have sacrificed other things for my well-being, like sleep. And three, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm just going to leave it here. In fact, it definitely doesn't mean I'm going to leave it here. It's that kind of idea we talked about before of you're not changing the target, you're just changing the date that you hope to hit said target. So when it comes to thinking about my minimums, I like to think about them as stepping stones rather than, oh yeah, I'm just kind of like doing a half-assed job of something. That can be a good mentality to get into for those type of things, especially if you can think of milestones that, and this can be a tricky one, all right? So take this one with a grain of salt, but thinking of milestones that realistically you could get to that point and pause and still be comfortable and happy with where you're at. Now, if you're the type of person who knows that if you let yourself get to a pause point, let's just say like the arrangement in my office, if I was the type of person who could get to this arrangement in my office and be very comfortable and happy with it, and then just like write off doing the rest of the goal, that could be a problem. But if you're the kind of person who can at least just give yourself that happy kind of pause point, I like calling it a pause point, that feels nice. Give yourself a happy pause point, knowing that you will get back to the thing, knowing that when life frees up and you have more bandwidth and such, you can come back to it. That can be a helpful way to think about it. I know we're speaking in a lot of hypotheticals here, but hopefully it is still helpful. I'm trying to give you guys some examples as we go through, but obviously my examples are very much dictated by my life. If you have any specific kind of scenarios you're thinking about or wondering about, do make sure to send those through as well. I know we have had some questions that are very specific, and I do much appreciate them. I'm not very good at speaking in best words right now, probably because I'm thirsty. Remember, hydration is important. Tink. New water bottle. Alrighty, another question. Alrighty, this one. Interested in any tips you have for someone with a very strong inner rebel? Every time I set a goal, my brain says, great, now we're never going to do that thing ever again. Oh, I feel you on that. I think that one of the things that has been very helpful for my rebel brain is making sure that rebel brain knows that she always has a choice. My rebel brain is a she. So rebel brain, Jess's rebel brain, always has a choice in what she does. So how can I give her like uber flexibility in the way that things get approached. So that could be in the sequencing of something, like when something gets done. It could be in the options to do the thing. So we're thinking about exercise. I'm not going to make her go all full gym bra, profuse sweating, 17 hours on the elliptical or it doesn't count. Not going to do that to her because she will rebel and then we won't get anything done. Sad panda. Don't love that for us. What I will also do is think about it in terms of like, and this one can also be tricky, but it is also a strategy. So if you're the kind of person who can kind of like trick rebel brain without getting demotivated. So rather than saying, okay, we're going to do XYZ, it's, oh, I bet you can't XYZ. Because then rebel brain's like, screw you, you're not my manager. I'm going to do the thing anyway. And you're like, haha, you're falling into my trap type of a deal. It's obviously tricky for some people that won't work. For some people, if I say, oh, wow, I bet you couldn't do XYZ, they're just going to be like, yeah, you're right. I can't do XYZ. I'm like, no, I was challenging you. Come back. Fight against me. Be a rebel type thing. So depends on what your kind of, preferences are or whatnot in that type of scenario. But it can be one way to trick rebel brain into actually just doing the thing. But up here, we're going to have the routines tracker. And I only have 4 routines that I'm keeping track of, and I'm thinking they're going pretty okay. I think I would also actually just like to track getting into bed at a reasonable hour because I haven't been doing that this week so far. But I don't also want to go and pile too much on my plate. I have been enjoying just tracking a fewer number of things. Fewer? A smaller? I don't know. This one's a mini question. Which day is your birthday? My birthday is going to be on Saturday next week, 11th of October. But let's see. You mentioned the book Make Time before. Love it. Make Time is by Jake Knapp and John Zeratsky. Do you have any other references that you like in the same subject? And for decluttering? For decluttering, okay, the book that kind of like set me down my self-help journey was The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I know it isn't for everybody, but that is the book that made me fall in love with the genre. And I also find that oftentimes with a lot of self-help books, they need to find you at the right time. And that one definitely found me at the right time. So I really love it. Do I do everything that Marie Kondo does? No, I do not. There are, things that she talks about that you should or shouldn't do or whatnot, or that she does or doesn't do that I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm going to keep doing that. In particular, folding socks. I can understand what she's talking about. You don't want to stretch out the elastic with your socks and you want to treat them nicely and all of this. I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to be able to find a pair way easier if I do the fold over method. So I'm just going to keep doing that. But other books in that genre that I really like. I recently read Slow Productivity. That one was pretty good. It's mainly better for people who have a lot of autonomy over their schedule, though. So it's like if you have a traditional 9-to-5 type job where you don't have a lot of say in how you spend your time or when you spend your time, then maybe that one's not really a great rec, but it is one that I read recently that I did quite enjoy. But yeah, Make Time, all-time favorite in terms of the productivity self-help type genre. Jake Knapp, John Zeratsky. I think I can type that in for you. Knapp and John Zerat. Can she spell? Zeratsky. Done. Poink. Yeah, for decluttering, I enjoy the videos, the Spake Maker method on YouTube. Nice. In terms of decluttering, I have also really enjoyed the like Clutterbugs channel. I think that she brings a lot of chaotic energy, and I just kind of appreciate that about her. She has ADHD, and so she's constantly jumping into like new hobbies and projects and such as well. And I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that so much. In terms of decoration on here, I just have all of my little washi stickers, and we're gonna find some that fit the vibe. I do love that I picked a Halloween tape for this month because I'm like, yes, October, Halloween, makes sense. My cycle doesn't even include October 31st. So I'm like, do I just do another one? Like, would it just be another Halloween theme? Yeah, Minimal Mom, Dana K. White. I know that these are people that other channels that people like. But yeah, Clutterbug is a channel on YouTube. So if you just search Clutterbug on YouTube, then Cass's videos will come up. She's the first one that I found in general. And I love her just method and style and her humor. I think she's a good egg. Now, another question while I find a sticker. Making sure that I don't do the ones we've already done. So, do you have any tips for not making too many or not making too big of goals? Last quarter, I had 4 big goals and made progress on all of them. Yay! But not as much as I would have liked. Nay. I think that am I the person to ask about this? Yes, I will answer this question. So, in terms of this one, what I find typically happens, and the reason why I commit to as many goals as I often do, or why a lot of us do, is this idea of like FOMO, like, oh, if I don't do this now, I can't do this. And we get like, very excited about the possibilities and the potential of things. So we pick a lot of stuff to work on. And then if we do make progress on all of them, yay. But oftentimes we won't make as much progress as we would have hoped to, kind of like you talked about. So, in thinking about that, what I like to do is put them into maybe categories. So, if you're going to commit to all of them, you can say, like, this is my top tier. These are the ones that they get the majority of my attention. And then these ones, the smaller subset, or like, the ones that aren't quite as pressing. I'm not going to say they're not as important because if they're on your list, then they are important to you. But maybe they don't have to be done right this second. So, in thinking about that, then you'll hopefully, by putting it into these kind of like prioritized lists of these are the ones that get the main focus, these are the ones that get less of a focus or less of a time, less of my attention, you'll make better progress on those bigger, more pressing ones. That's sometimes how I like to approach it. So you kind of, if we think about it in terms of 4 goals, maybe 2 of them are your like my main squeeze, my main focus, and then the other 2 are the ones that are going to be kind of like, if I get time, if I have any more bandwidth, I will also do some stuff towards those, but I'm accepting that I won't make as much progress on those 2 in particular. And then if they're the kind of things that, they're long-term goals that you want to work on, maybe in the next quarter, they swap. It's like, okay, well now these 2 are going to be the ones that I have the most focus on. Those 2 are the ones that I'm going to pay the most kind of attention to, and these other ones are going to sit on the back burner. I'll still make slow, small progress on them, but I won't be kind of focusing on them as much. Need to pick a sticker. Oh, this little bear. Little bear's pretty cute. I kind of want to put this little bear here. I can make a panel of decoration. That'd be kind of fun. I also need to stick some washi tape down. Oh gosh. Okay, pick your sticker first, Jess. Come on. We can do this. You have the technology. I like this book. I'm going to put this book down. Okay, we are going to put the book down, but we're going to put some tape up here first. And I'm going to do bats. Freaking bats. Love that. All right, so a lot of bug makes you laugh. You're a ladybug. Nice. I think that my bug type, because one of the things that Clutterbug has is this bug system based on whether you like to do micro or macro organizing and whether you like visual or hidden systems. It's quite the smart system that she uses. I think it's quite interesting. But I think my bug type depends on the space in my house and like where I'm trying to organize. And that's something that can be kind of tricky for me. But moving all of those around. Alrighty, I am a perfectionist. I understand. How do you decide or know that something is finished? That is a great question. And I find that a lot of the time I will just call things soft finished more than I will call them finished. So when it comes to a lot of the goals I set for myself, rather than saying I want to finish XYZ, I will say I want to soft finish XYZ, because then it gives future me permission to change my mind about things or change the kind of end point that I've reached. So pretty much anytime I reorganize my office, I never word it in such a way that is like finish my office setup. I will always word it as soft finish my office setup, because as I work and live in my office and such, I will inevitably find things that I don't like or things that don't quite work or things that I want to change or whatnot. So by giving myself the permission to say like, it's okay, this is just another iteration, this isn't the 100% done, it helps me be a little bit softer with myself, I guess, and allows that kind of room for development and growth beyond whatever kind of finish point, quote unquote, finish point I have gotten myself to. So for instance, at the end of this week, I hope to have my office soft finished. It will not be completely 100%. It will not be done. It will not be like, this is the be all and end all of the office and I shall change nothing ever again. Oh man. Nope, it's not going to be like that. Instead, what it will be is soft finished, which is like, this is my good enough for right now, and I give myself full permission to make adjustments and changes moving forward. Especially because with a lot of project-based goals, because project-based goals for me are the ones that actually have a finish, whereas ones that are kind of like routine or like long-term, those ones that are like constantly building, those ones don't ever really have a finish. They just go into maintenance mode. So for instance, if we're talking about like a health goal in particular, sure, you might reach some kind of goal weight or whatnot, but that doesn't mean that you then just stop all of the efforts that you were making to getting to that kind of point, I suppose. Like, you probably still want to keep up with your exercise, and you probably still want to keep up with nutritious eating and such. Maybe you won't be focusing on it quite as much as you were previously, but that is not going to just stop because you reached some kind of like outcome, I suppose. But when it comes to a project-based goal, those are the ones where being a little bit more soft and saying, okay, I will soft finish the thing, or I will get to this kind of point, I suppose, as opposed to saying, yep, 100% done, no more notes, everything is perfection. Because oftentimes striving towards that idea of perfection just leads to a never-ending cycle of making iterations and feeling like it has to be at the top of my list because it isn't done. But if I give myself a done point that is actually a soft finish, then it's like, okay, cool, I did soft finish it. I can check that off the list. If I say it has to be perfect, I can't check it off the list. And then it's never really finished. And that doesn't make my heart happy. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, that idea that to decide that something is finished, you can just, instead of saying it is finished, say it is like finished for now, or it is soft finished, or it is a point that I'm happy at, but I give myself full permission to come back and continue to do some work on it. But let's see. All right. How can I start the challenge when I live a very lazy, phone-addicted life? Motivation base equals level 0. I guess it depends on what you want to work on, because you can still be lazy and phone addicted and make progress. It just depends on what you want to make progress on. If you want to make progress on not being phone addicted, then yeah, maybe we have to work towards not being phone addicted. But if your priorities still align with being on your phone, then it's totally cool to be phone addicted and stay phone addicted. Also, I guess the question for a lot of these things, a lot of goals in general, is this something that is important to me? Or is this something that's important to someone else, and thus I feel it should be important to me? I hate shoulds. We don't want to should all over ourselves type of a thing, right? When it comes to setting goals for ourselves, they do have to be things that we feel some level of connection to, and that they would genuinely be helpful or impactful on our lives to actually have any motivation to get the thing done. So if you are currently, sitting in a space where you feel like your attachment to your phone or whatnot is actually being detrimental to getting other stuff done, then yeah, let's address that. Let's do something towards that. Even if it's just giving yourself, 10 free minutes of phone a day or whatnot. For any goal though, regardless of what we're working on, that idea of starting small, if you don't have a lot of motivation, will help build the momentum that will help keep you going. So if we're thinking about an exercise goal, because it's a kind of relatable one that most people can at least visualize type of a thing, in starting a new exercise habit, rather than saying, I'm going to exercise for 30 minutes a day, which when you're going from 0 exercise to 30, I'm like, absolutely not. Rebel brain starts screaming. She's like, nope, you can't make me do it. I'm not going to do it. Where am I going to find 30 minutes? How am I going to get this done? This is ridiculous. Let's just give up already. Don't set the expectation to be that far removed from your current reality. So if your current reality is doing 0 exercise, then maybe the expectation is, I will put on my exercise shoes each day and I give myself full permission to take them off and just not exercise. Or maybe it is, I will exercise for 1 minute a day. I will take a 1 minute walk around my kitchen, or I will do 5 minutes of, an exercise video on YouTube or something, one that's fun and feels a little silly or something like that. I will put one song on that I really genuinely enjoy and dance around my living room to it, type of a thing. I'm not going to set the expectation to be here when I'm sitting down here, like sub-zero, can't even see me type of a thing. You have a strength training goal of twice a week for 10 minutes. Yeah, that's great. Like if you're going from a point of I do none, then trying to say I do all is too much of a jump. We need to find some kind of like stepwise way to get ourselves into the thing, especially if you're coming into a challenge feeling low motivation. What I kind of find difficult though, and let me know if you can relate, is that when we undertake a challenge, when we're really excited about the thing, we jump in for the first few days doing the 100%. It's like, yeah, I hit everything on my tracker. I did my 30 minutes of exercise and I cooked like a nutritious meal and I did all of this. And then you get to day 3 and you're just like, oh, okay, I didn't do this like one little part of it, or maybe a couple things didn't happen, and now I'm just going to give up because I couldn't do it perfectly. That is definitely another problem that people can run into. And I think that starting small and just expecting incremental for ourselves, making the expectation smaller, can be very beneficial for making sure that we keep up with things in the long run. But yeah, alrighty. So apologies to the rest. I would totally do it if you could, but the time won't let me. Yeah. What is a micron pin? This one is a micron PN. It is a like plastic nib, so PN, plastic nib, micron. So instead of having the I don't know, juddy outy felt tip whatever, it has a plastic tip. And I was recently sent this from Rachel. She has sent this to me. I've much appreciated them, kind of as a little wedding gift, which was very kind of her to do. And that one has been really fun to play around with this month. I've been using it for all of my black outlining in my boxes and such. But let's see. So hopefully that answers your question. I know that in terms of like motivation base level 0, that is definitely somewhere that a lot of people can start. And even though the advice to just take it small is one that you've probably heard before, and you're like, cool, Jess, not revolutionary. I want you to do the thing though, right? I want you to find that smallest, most granular part of whatever it is that you're trying to work on and do that. Even if it's, you don't do it every single day, if you've given yourself permission to be like, okay, 3 or 4 times this week, I'm going to do this very small granular thing, that is still better than not doing it at all. That is still better than staying where you are in a place that obviously, isn't where you want to be, because otherwise you wouldn't set the goal for yourself. We don't typically set goals for ourselves to work towards something we don't really want, unless you're letting societal expectations set your priorities for you, which we also shouldn't do. But hopefully you kind of get the idea. And hopefully that helps. But I'm so glad you're enjoying the PN. It's great. I love it so much. It's been going really well. No, it's a very kind gift, and I really appreciate it. So let's see. Okay, before I answer another question, I'm going to draw my routines tracker in because I need to get that part done. So in terms of the routines that I'm keeping track of, I'm not really keeping track of very many, mainly because that idea of, don't bite off more than you can chew or whatever. I found that towards the end of our last challenge, there were just some routines and tasks that I just was not keeping track of. I just didn't care, type of a thing. So I figured that this time around I would streamline it, just track the ones that were actually going to be really helpful. So for instance, in here, I do not track exercise because I have been consistently doing exercise and I don't feel the need to track it. The ones I'm keeping on here are the ones that I feel like if I didn't track it, there is a risk of it not getting done. So that is definitely something that you can kind of think about when it comes to setting up your trackers for this challenge. Which things, if I do not track them, won't happen? Or which things, if by tracking them, if I track them, I will be more motivated to do it, or more inclined, or more incentivized, or more motivated, anything like that. All right. So my 4 things that I have, if I can find them. Up with the alarm, set the daily highlight, intentional leisure, track my food. That is it. I have 1, 2, 3 centimeters off the end. So we will put those in. Where's my PN? 1, 2, 3. There we go. Da, 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 da. 1, 2. Cool. That looks good. There we go. Give myself that kind of scaffolding so that then I can see where I need to do the thing. Alrighty. Let's see. Oh, I like this. Yeah, I started making my bed a habit by committing to fluff 1 pillow each morning. Big advocate for minimum viable products to start. Exactly. And I think it's one of those things that oftentimes, if we start with like that small, really little thing, which feels silly, like if it feels silly, it is a perfect starting point. Because if it feels silly, then it's probably small enough that you probably think it won't make a difference, but it definitely will, because it's just building the routine of doing the thing. Yeah. So in your case, you fluff 1 pillow and now you make your bed more consistently. I know for one people, come on. For some people, they have, trying to get into a dental hygiene routine for the morning or something. Because, okay, this is a complete aside. One of the things that I really don't like is anytime people use brushing their teeth as like, this is the example of something everybody does and it's super easy. Like, if you can build a habit of brushing your teeth, then you can build a habit of everything. I'm the person who struggles to remember to brush their teeth. Like, which I know is not like great, but it is my reality. So anytime it's like oh, well, you wouldn't forget to brush your teeth. I'm like, I certainly would forget to brush my teeth. How dare you make that assumption? But if they're trying to build like a morning routine, dental hygiene routine for the morning or whatnot, rather than set the goal as fully do my dental hygiene routine, like fully brush, mouthwash, rinse, scrape my tongue, yada yada, they will floss one tooth. That is their entire routine, or the entire thing that they're trying to build is the habit of flossing one tooth. Because once you're there and you've got the floss in your hand, you might as well do a couple more. So if you can build the routine of flossing one tooth, and some days that means that one tooth gets flossed, and that one tooth will be plaque free, and it'll be beautifully hollowed out, not with food in the middle of it or whatever. Yay for that one tooth. You might want to change up which tooth it is each day. I'm not a dental hygiene professional, but like, come on. So if you can build that up, given the fact that you're already there, you're in that kind of situation, you've got the floss in your hand, you might as well do some more. And that's really what we're trying to do for ourselves. That's the same idea with the exercise goal, right? If you've got your shoes on and you're already on the walking pad, or you've already gone outside to do your laps, or you're already at the gym, or like whatever, you might as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So starting small and starting silly, that's not the end outcome. It's not the thing that we're really kind of aiming for in the grand scheme of things. And that's where we can kind of fall into that trap of being like, well, this is dumb because I don't want that as my end goal. I don't want to be the person who flosses just one tooth type of a deal. I want to be the person with the full oral hygiene routine that takes care of their teeth and goes to the dentist, and the dentist is like, wow, I've never seen teeth as amazing as your teeth. This is fabulous. Can I take a picture of your teeth and put them on my wall? No, you can't, because that's weird. But anyways, like, the flossing of one tooth is not the end outcome we want. It's not the thing we're really striving for, but it is the stepping stone. It is the building block that gets us to the point where we have the thing that we want. So what is that stepping stone for you? What is your tiny thing? What is the small thing? Yeah? So, scrolling across, point, scrolling with a pen. That's how this works. Good morning. Love it. Found it so hard to build routines. Every action that I take, I have to think about doing it. Yeah. And I think that for a lot of us, that doesn't necessarily go away, like the having to think about doing the thing, but it gets to a point where we won't question whether we will do it. Like, I still have to make myself do exercise, but there is no question in my mind as to whether I will do exercise. It's not like oh, should I exercise today? It's when should I exercise today? That kind of makes sense. I still haven't set any expectations around myself as to what that exercise looks like. I don't set myself a minimum like time requirement or distance requirement or anything like that, because I know that as soon as I start to set that kind of expectation, rebel brain will come back and she'll be like, no, 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 no. How dare you make me feel restricted like that? I thought we had a thing. We had a good thing going. Where are these restrictions coming from? And I want to be the person who still does their daily exercise, so I will not set the restriction that will kick off rebel brain and make my life harder, because then I'll have to fight rebel brain. Ugh. Aim for while I'm here. Yeah, exactly. Aim for while I'm here. Now, I might as well. Like, it wouldn't hurt to. Let's see. Yeah. Any hygiene tasks generally shouldn't be thought of as default and easy, because I feel like that's the exact type of stuff that can also be hard for build habits around. Exactly. And I think that that's the thing that kind of gets me about the because I consume a lot of like, self-help, productivity, yada yada type things, and a lot of the time people use the teeth brushing as the default, as like oh yeah, if you're building habits, you wouldn't question to brush your teeth. I'm like, but I would. You're not my manager, you don't know me. But anywho, so let's see, where were we? I love the way you time block your day, and I feel like I'd massively benefit from it. What do you find helps you stick to the time blocks instead of just carrying on with your default time use? My time blocks I've got are quite large, but then I also treat them quite flexibly. So I treat my time blocks more as kind of a guideline rather than a you must stick to this kind of boundary outside of when lunch is and when my day ends. So my actual kind of like scaffold or structure actually ends up a bit more flexible than it looks like on my calendar. I'll see if I can show you an example. I don't know if I can. I'll just like screenshot it. There we go. See if I can screenshot this so I can show you a picture of it, because there we go. Just screenshot that part and put it into a Paint document so that we can have a look at it together. So, sharing the screen. Da, 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 da. So this is my beautiful Paint document that I currently have. This is what my week kind of looks like. So you can see if I get like a red pen out here. For instance, this block, I never actually ended up going and filling in for some reason, but that was office reorganization. That ended up being a goal block instead of a regular work block. This one here that I'm putting little boxes on so you can kind of see it. So that one should be filled in with a goal block. But in terms of today for the live stream, I have scheduled the live stream for this block here, but it might go longer. And in that case, I will just push that block out and let it take up as much space as it actually ends up taking up. Similar idea with yesterday. My filming block, I was going to only do it for the first 2 hours of the day. It ended up taking, I think, about an hour and a half, or if not the whole thing. It might have taken the whole thing. Yeah, it was a long filming block. And then this was supposed to be a work block, but it ended up being a phone call to mum. So I just deleted the work block and I put phone call to mum in. Not every week fits the block schedule that I start with, but the block schedule that I start with gives me a really good scaffold to build from to plan my work, at least in like a general sense. And this kind of planning is really helpful when it comes to the challenge, because every yellow block that you have on here, that is a block where I am in theory working on my goals. I am also the person who has flexibility in my schedule enough to do this though. And a lot of those yellow blocks are going to be work related tasks, because I do have goals related to my day job, quote, quote, my day job. So I find that for me, having my lunch at a set period, which allows for 2 blocks before it and 2 blocks after it, to be a good kind of structure. But I am also the kind of person who has the type of tasks that I can focus, or at least I can slot something into a 2-hour block and have it take up the entire 2-hour block. Not everybody has the kind of work where a task will take them like 2 hours to do. Some people will have a lot more kind of like granular work pieces where it's like, oh yeah, here's like a half-hour block, a half-hour block, a half-hour block, and that type of thing will be more relevant to their line of work. But yeah. Let's see. Love for a doodle video for Vlogmas, Christmas related. We do already actually have a Christmas doodles video up on the channel. I don't think I'll probably be doing a lot of doodling content this December, mainly because I'll be aiming more for the type of content that's like prepping for the new year. But we do have Christmas doodles, or from a previous Vlogmas, a Christmas doodles video that you might want to check out. Hopefully that helps. But let's see. So I'm going to put in my task list and then I'm going to find the next question. But yeah, the time blocking, I personally really help. I think that it is definitely something that has been of value to add into my kind of like reset week tasks, is prepping that schedule for myself. Put in a tasks header. I'm going to answer this one. So how do you make your sticky headings? I have a video on the channel for that one as well. That one was released within the last maybe 2 or 3 months, I think. In terms of the actual title of that video, I can't quite remember what it's called, but we can go have a snoop. We can go find it, because yeah, sticky headings is just a really nice way to be able to add some visual interest without having to learn a whole bunch of styles of lettering yourself, because learning styles of lettering, what a mission. But this one is for headings. There we go. But yeah, determine the level of Alrighty, this is a great question. I love this. I will answer it while I go and put my tasks in. But yeah, for the sticky headings, that is the video link that I just sent through for you. So hopefully you can check that one out and see the process for it, because it's actually quite easy. It's not a difficult thing to do. It's just not necessarily super intuitive, I guess, especially for the sizing of it. But anywho, so the next question, so that one was, how do you determine the level of granularity, there we go, I can read, in a daily task list? This one is, it's kind of like a balancing act. The way that I think of it is, what is the kind of like the smallness that I need to make the thing feel doable, but not so small that I have to write out a bajillion things and then the number will get me overwhelmed. Some people like to think about it in terms of the amount of time it takes to do a thing. That can be a helpful way to approach it. So, how long will it take me to do XYZ? If it's under 15 minutes, it goes on a list. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So for instance, I will do, like, instead of having laundry as a task, which to me would just be like more overwhelming because it has multiple steps, I will break that down into wash the clothes, dry the clothes, put the clothes away, because each of those things, the actual action I have to take, is less than 10 minutes. Whereas if you think about the entire of the laundry, that is more of like a half-hour task or something. So you can think about it in terms of that time taken, depending on what your preference is. Maybe it's like is it 5 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 15 minutes? Like, what is the kind of maximum or whatnot? The maximum that I can get away with having something be written down as, or the amount of time it'll take, and still feel like it's a manageable thing. But we want to balance that with not having too many things written on our list. For instance, if we go and have a look at my list for yesterday, so this one, the Change Your Life recap video. So the video we have coming up this weekend, spoilers, I guess, but it's going to be me going through all of my goals from the last Change Your Life challenge and saying what progress I made, which ones did I accomplish, which ones did I not, which ones am I keeping on with or whatnot. So for that one, yesterday I filmed it and I half edited it, but I didn't write like half edit the vlog. I just wrote edit the vlog, and I haven't crossed it off yet because it's not done. I still need to edit it. And I know, like, going into it, it was like 2 hours of footage. Of course, it's not going to take me less than 15 minutes to edit 2 hours of footage. I'm not a miracle worker, but I don't need to break this down into smaller steps, because even though it is a bigger task, I know that it's going to get done, and I know that having it written here as just edit is fine. For some people, that would be like too big, too daunting. They wouldn't get the thing done. So maybe they want to say, like, do 15 minutes of editing, do a half hour of editing, yada, yada, if that is motivating for them. For me, if I just write edit, I know what I mean. If I went and wrote edit the first 15 minutes, edit the second 15 minutes, edit da, 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 or broke the video down into sections, like edit the first section, edit the second, yada, yada, that would just be me spending time writing as opposed to doing. So I've simplified it for myself, just written in edit. That is sufficient. I know that is something that will get done. This is also something that you will develop over time as you work in your journal or with your planner or whatnot. You'll come to these kind of patterns that you have with writing your tasks down that feel very comfortable. So for me, that was going from saying laundry to saying laundry, wash, dry, put away, like break it down into smaller steps, because if I just did laundry, it would only get half accomplished. And usually it was the putting things away stage that didn't get done. Like, that would be the part that I wouldn't do. So that would be something that I would be thinking about in terms of that. I think we're talking about the time change again. Yes, New Zealand has already gone and sprung forward because we're approaching spring. Thus, the timing of this stream is slightly different to when it usually is for most people. But still glad to have you here, guys. Alrighty. So, what size notebook is this one? This one is a B6. Little baby notebook. So small. I love it. I love the little one. Yeah, you massively benefit from microtasking because the higher ticking off stuff is chef's kiss. Exactly. And it's like, what kind of things give me the hit of like accomplishment and achievement and I'm getting stuff done. For some people, having a lot of smaller things to do, they're like, heck to the yeah, this is what I need, this is what I love, this keeps me motivated to keep going. For other people, they'll see the huge list of tasks and be like, nope, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not doing that, that's disgusting, I'll close my planner, never look at it again, and then all those plans are pointless. So it's really leaning into what is going to be more preferable for you, like what is going to work well with your brain hole and actually allow you to get the thing done, because that is the most important part. Getting your journal to serve the purpose you gave it, and typically speaking, we do actually have to use it to get that to happen. It's all good and well to write down a huge list of tasks, but if that's the kind of thing that's going to overwhelm you, then it's not really going to work out, is it? I can't remember what kind of stars and sparkles I did. I did little crosses, little stars, and little ding, which is like a sparkle. So we want a big star over here. Boom, big star. And a sparkle. And maybe a little star. And some circles. And a couple crosses. Looks pretty good. We'll put a little cross in here, a little circle in here. Maybe a little star here, why not? A little sparkle. And then we'll go fill in some more space with some orange dots. Bing. Tiny sparkles. I love stars and sparkles. They're the best space fillers. Alrighty. So, also just as a reminder for anybody, if we're going through, if you have a question, do make sure that you put some question marks at the start of it, just so that then I can easily spot them. But thank you for sending your questions through so far. Very much enjoying them. All right, so this was one of the questions that I received before our stream, so I wanted to make sure that I address those ones too, because people took the time to write them in for me, which I appreciate. What is the optimal way to stay accountable once joining the CYL community? Oh, I love it. Our community space is God. Yeah, that's good English. Not one of my goals, doesn't matter. Our community space has over 16,000 members in it now. I am so excited that 16,000 people have said, yes, I'm doing this challenge. I'm going to make things happen. I'm going to change my life in Q4. Wow, I'm very pumped. Can you tell? Yes, because I'm very excited about it. But in terms of staying accountable once joining there, it's really just making sure that you are coming back to that space. Like the space that we've set up is intended to be a place that you can record your progress. You can kind of showcase to other people the progress you're making. So making sure that if you hit a little milestone, whether it's just like a small one or if it's something bigger or whatnot, come into the community space, share that with people because they want to celebrate you. Like we want to be there working alongside you. So we want to know when things are going your way. Similarly, we also want to know when things aren't going your way because a lot of the struggles that you're going to be facing throughout the challenge or when you're working on any type of goals, they're not done just like by yourself. There are other people who are struggling with the same things, right? And it's nice to know, even if you can't necessarily solve each other's problems, it's nice to know that people understand. It's nice to know that other people get it. Yeah. So for instance, given we're at the very start of the challenge, we've had a couple people who are like, is anybody else struggling with the fact that day one wasn't perfect? Or is anybody else struggling with like how to keep track of their progress or whatnot? Like, can you show me the stuff that you've been doing or whatnot? Yeah, before and after pictures of my decluttering is so satisfying. I agree. And it's just great to be able to see other people showcasing their stuff as well. So it's really nice that people have been sharing those kind of things. Even if, you're just jumping in to say, oh, I decluttered one cupboard today. I'm like, heck to the yes. We want to know about that because we want to cheer you on and celebrate the fact that you're making progress. So the best way to make sure that you're kind of using that community space, it's going to sound dumb, is to use the community space. Oh my gosh, what a shocker. But no, jump in, put in a post, make sure that you've like given us your little intro spiel, tell us who you are, tell us what you're working on, because we want to be able to like cheer you on from the get-go type deal. But once you've done that, I've kind of been setting up little accountability posts for each week of the challenge so that we can at the very least, share what it is you're working on for each week as a little kind of, hey, it's week 1. What are your focuses for the week? What are you prioritizing this week? Because for a lot of us, we're working on multiple things, even though the challenge is just one thing, and it's totally valid and totally fine to work on just one thing. A lot of us are working on multiple things. So it's nice to be able to break that down in terms of, okay, week 1, I'm focusing on the research stage. Week 2, I'm focusing on like prepping the material stage or whatever. Depends on what it is people are working on, of course. But just in case you haven't really seen the space, I'm going to jump on over there so that then you guys can kind of see it with me. So we go to Epic Goals because that's where it's hosted. I figured all of our goal stuff is together. So if you jump into Epic Goals, we obviously have the feed space, which just has like general stuff, but this is also for the entire of the space. Notably, we have the course and the club, but those aren't the spaces we're looking at. We're looking at Change Your Life, which is down here. So in Share Your Journey, this is the spot where you can tell us like, who are you? What are you working on? What have you accomplished so far? What are you struggling with? What challenges are you having? Do you have any questions? So anything really that you want to post about, you post in here. If you're the kind of person who has been in a Facebook group before, this is essentially your Facebook group space. This is the place where you put a post, people can comment back to you and such. So for instance, like this person has posted with some words, they've posted a picture, we can go in, we can read that, we can like that and stuff. Tina posted something. Thank you, Tina. We appreciate you being part of that community. And then in the CYL chat, this is more like a messenger chat space where we can kind of like have back and forth conversations. So that's for sharing really quick things, little wins, that kind of stuff. Maybe if you have a really quick question that you think doesn't really need to have a full post around it, you can chuck that in there. But there's really only those 2 main spaces. We also have welcome to CYL. That's just explaining what the challenge is, how to navigate, guidelines, notifications, that deal. So 3 main spaces. One of them is just information, one of them is a post space, and the other one is a chat space. So we just want you to jump in there and get involved with the community more than anything. You do not have to come back and check in every single day, but that is what I have been doing because seeing the progress other people are making gets me remotivated to make progress. Because if I can see other people are doing stuff, I'm like, I want to do stuff. I want to be, part of the party that succeeds and meets their goals and all of that type of thing. I'm totally using some FOMO on myself. Like, I want that for me. But let's see. So next question. All right. So I'm new to Discord. Where do I find the invite link to join the server? On most videos, I should have the invite link, but I can send it to you again if you want. Pretty much any video where I like specifically mention the Discord is usually a good video to find that link. It's just remembering what they are. I try to keep the description boxes of my videos a bit more simplified. I used to be the type of person who's like, oh, I'll just link all the things because, people might want XYZ of a link. And then I'm like, that's really overwhelming. Good job on overwhelming people, Jess. We don't want to do that. We don't want to overwhelm people. But there we go. We'll send that one through. So for the Discord space, the Discord is separate to Epic, just for anybody who's wondering. But that is like our kind of main journaling community. People who enjoy journaling, want to share their journals and such, want to share their other creative pursuits and whatnot. It's also the main space that we have our team hangouts, which is for the team with a capital T. That is our channel membership. So once a month we go over there and have a little hangout session and do some journaling and some chill time together, which is very nice. So, alrighty, question. Do you have any advice for setting a schedule for those of us who have total control of our time? Oh, I love that. I find myself losing track of time for days at a time. Yeah, that's definitely something that I was struggling with, especially when I transitioned from being a teacher into being a kind of like full-time content creator or whatnot. I found that the way that it worked well for me to do it was really to outline my priorities for it first. I mean, this is the same with anything. We love starting with a purpose first. Purpose first is a great way to start. So are there any kind of like big rocks to take care of as part of your purpose? Like, do you want to have a really kind of easy, relaxing lead into the morning? Are you the type of person who prefers to sleep in, or like, do you have a natural tendency to sleep in? Do you want to have your lunch at a set time? Is there a set time you want to kind of be wrapping up with your day activities and transition into night activities? Like, when do you want to get in your pajamas type of a deal? Because those type of questions can help you start to build a very general scaffold, and then you can go and put in some blocks that are a bit more specific. For me, I know that I have a couple big rocks. One of the big rocks is this live stream. It happens when it happens. It is not movable. I mean, it is, but like I try to have it the same time each week, So for me, that is 9 a.m. on a Thursday is my live stream. That is a big rock. I am not going to be putting something else in that time slot because this is dedicated to time with you. But other big rocks I have would be kind of like epic goals. So 9 a.m. on a Monday, that is the epic goals work along. That is when I'm working with other goal getters and we're going to work on our goals together. Doesn't need to be the same goal, but we're going to work in the same spot together. And other ones would be something like date night. Date night is not a work-related thing, but it is a big rock. And I want to make sure that that is on my schedule every Thursday. That is going to be something that has got a dedicated block of time there. Does it happen on Thursday every week? No, not necessarily, but I still have it there because if I don't carve that time out for it, it's less likely to happen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have counted this so many times because I keep on counting it and then just like not remembering the number. There we go. Better. Thank you. This is going to be my Alastair method task list. So tasks, days of the week. Nice. I find that if you start with those ones, like what is the purpose? What are kind of like some of the considerations that I need to have or whatnot? Then after you've considered those, putting in the big rocks, anything else is where the flexibility kind of can come into it. Like, when do I want to be doing X, Y, Z? What goals do I have and what time blocks do I need for those goals? So for instance, on my one that we had a look at before, I have a time block on there for every day for exercise, because if I don't time block it in, if I don't carve that time out, it is at risk of not happening. And that would not be good for my goals. I have time blocks dedicated to goal work. So this is very much dependent on what week it is, like what am I working on for that week, but I have time carved out to do work on those things. Otherwise, there's a risk that it won't happen, and that would make me sad. And I don't want to be sad. I think most people don't want to be sad. Unless like you're already sad and you want to kind of wallow in your sadness, I totally understand that feeling as well. That is why I have a hashtag sad times playlist on my Spotify. So I can just really like lean into my sad feels. I don't play it very often for that specific purpose, but I do enjoy the music in that playlist. Anyway, so purpose first, put in your big rocks, and then build everything else around that will actually align with what you want. Yeah. And this is why you start with the purpose, so that then you can figure out what type of blocks and how long for those blocks you might need in order to make that schedule. So like, for instance, if being on top of your laundry is something that you want to build into your schedule, then maybe having a dedicated laundry block on there would be a good idea. I don't need a... say she just says it doesn't need it, but doesn't she? I don't have a laundry block on mine because I typically do my blocking in half-hour increments minimum, and laundry as a task for me, the actual putting away of the laundry actually only takes 15 minutes, which makes it so much more frustrating as to why I procrastinate on it. It's just because it's not fun, but I do find that I procrastinate on that, but I don't need a time block for it, because any block of time that I would put on there would be too big to account for it. But let's see. Ooh, how can I stop being tempted by people who post their spreads on social media? That's tricky. I'm like, but I want to tempt you. No, I'm kidding. I guess, again, it's not so much the stopping of being tempted, because I think that to stop being tempted is difficult. I think it's what we then do with that temptation. So, for instance, you plan a season, people are like, oh, I'm getting XYZ. I want to, start in this one. I'm going to have this one as this type of journal and this one as this type of journal and yada, yada. And it gets very tempting to be like, oh, I want to hope and eat your cousin. Like, but do you, Jessica? Do you? It's just, for me, the thing is not kind of trying to avoid the temptation, because I find that kind of tricky. It's then when I'm tempted, when I'm feeling tempted, what is my process for figuring out if that's a temptation I want to act on? So if we're thinking about it in terms of planner spreads and layouts and such, that would be considering what time, effort, and energy went into producing that thing. Do I have that to give? Or is that how I want to spend my time, effort, and energy? If we think about it just in terms of time, so we've been here together for a while. You've kind of seen how long this is taking me. I have also been running my mouth though, so let's take that into account. When it comes to actually setting this layout up, if I wasn't running my mouth, it would probably take me 20 minutes to half an hour type of a deal. So in the fact that this is going to take me 20 minutes to set up or half an hour to set up, do you have half an hour that you want to dedicate to this? Or would you rather spend that half an hour on something else? You know, we think about it in terms of like, what are we trading to do that thing? Or if we think about it in terms of the like materials or whatnot, if part of the setup that you're looking at is based on the materials they've used. Oh, okay, so they have used, you know, these washi stickers or whatnot. Like, they're not washi, they're PET. You get the idea. They've used these stickers. I could buy the stickers, or could I use that money on something else that I want more? Was that kind of, you know, something that I would be more interested in or more eager to pursue? So we're not necessarily trying to talk ourselves out of every single thing, but we're just trying to double check that it's actually something we want. If we're thinking about it in terms of the layout structure itself, and it's the structure that's tempting, will this actually work for me? Like, you know, if you see somebody doing a really creative type layout that you love the kind of general layout of, let's go to look at an actual weekly because it'll be helpful. Alrighty, here's an actual weekly, quote, that has a box for each day of the week. That's kind of what I mean. So this is a weekly that I did back in 2019. Oh, throwback. So the way that I had structured this was that I had my different life areas. These are the goals or like the action steps I wanted to do in each of those. These were things like I got stickers from Spotlight, so I stuck a sticker in anyways. This is the structure I wanted. But if I look at this now, we're going to pretend that this isn't Jess's work, this is somebody else's. And like, let's just say I'm tempted by like, oh, I want to do this. Does this actually work with what I need from my planner? Because right now, like, no, it does not. First of all, my goals, I do not necessarily need to do action steps for every single one of them for each week, so that's not really going to work. In terms of the number of goals I have more than the amount that are here, so if I was going to put in every single one of my goals, I would need a lot more space, and I don't want to take up that space. In terms of the daily task lists, these are too small for me. I need way more space for my daily task lists. If we go and have a look at how much space I actually take for a daily task list nowadays, I'm going to just scoot this guy over. My daily task list for Monday took up a full column. Like you can see, it starts here and then it goes all the way to here. It took up like a full column of space. 4 lines is not going to cut it, you know? So what I will do when I'm looking at a layout online, I'm like, oh, I love that. I love the structure of it kind of a thing. Do I have the time, effort, and energy to spend recreating this? Or would I rather spend that time somewhere else? Do I have the materials to spend on this? Or if I don't, do I want to spend the money on something else? Will the structure actually work for me? Because if the structure is not going to work for me, even if it looks cool, even if it looks pretty, is there any point? Like, I could go and set this up in my planner this week and be like, yeah, cool, new structure, whatnot, but it doesn't actually align with what my needs for my planner are. So if you can get through those questions and you're like, yes, I'm fine to spend the time because I think it'd be a fun creative project. You know what? I actually love that tape and I think I'll use it multiple times over and I get a lot of happiness and joy out of it. Heck to the yeah. And also, I do think this structure would align with my planning. This is really kind of like what I want in terms of the structuring of my layout, and I think it would work for the type of data I need to put in. Hell yeah, go and do the thing. Be influenced. But we're not trying to avoid the temptation. We're just trying to question the temptation and whether we want to do anything with it. Hopefully that helps. But also, I don't know if it showed up for everybody else, but we had like a bunch of new membership join-ups at the start of this video. Like when I jumped on, I'm not sure if people actually joined like through this video or whatnot, but it's very exciting. Yay for Bookish Artist Mandy Cool. I hope that I said that right, but you get like a little banner and everything. And if you weren't already part of the team with a capital T, welcome to the team with a capital T. We love having you here. And if you were already here and it's just telling me you're a new member, even though you're an existing member, I'm still glad that you're here. Love having you with us. But, glad that there was a time change so you were able to catch an hour of the live. Thank you for being here while you could be, Tina. It's always a pleasure to see you. All right. So, how can you finish your journal setup when you have started doing your goals and are on a roll with achieving them? Oh, well, I guess it depends on is finishing your journal setup actually aligned with your goals? What are you like missing out on by not having it finished? I mean, if we go and have a look at the start of journal setup for me, I have not populated anything for Vlogmas. I will eventually. Haven't populated future me tasks, haven't populated life lists to make. Like there's stuff to fill in and that has not been yet filled in, but it is not impeding me in any way, shape, or form. It is not like holding me back from my journal filling its purpose. It is not holding me back from getting my goals done or anything like that. So I guess the question would be, do you have to finish it? Is it a problem? Is it holding you back? Because if it is holding you back, we should probably prioritize finishing the journal setup, especially if the start of journal, I'm thinking start of journal setup here, but if the start of journal setup was going to be the type of thing that's going to like hold you back from doing something, then yeah, I would probably get in and make sure that I set that up. So yeah, tracking your progress. If you want to have your progress tracked in your journal, that one is definitely something to prioritize, but maybe you could like stagger it, just set up like that minimum viable product type deal, minimum viable pages or whatnot. If I was setting up a tracker, for instance, for my a goal or whatnot, maybe I just put in the scaffold for the tracker. I don't put in all the decoration, because then at least the functional part where I can track my information is there, and I can go and add decoration later when I have a little bit more bandwidth. Also, Tink, so we haven't had a drink in a while. I'm getting parched. Oh my goy. Aw, I'm glad that that has been helpful for you. I'm glad that you were here with us. Enjoy the rest of your evening because you're going to bed. So sleep well. Let's see. And question about the time, it is currently 11 a.m. Like it just checked over to 11 a.m. on a Thursday for me. But also, yay! Tiny new member badge. I need a little flag. I want to get one so that I can wave the little flag anytime we get a new member. And thank you for the CYL challenge. You're so welcome. No, yeah, I think that setting up the minimum viable pages for that, prioritizing at least the functional stuff so that then you can get in and track your stuff is definitely something that I would try to do. Alrighty, good question. The most useful lesson from the last round. It's okay. So oftentimes when it comes to lessons that I have learned through doing something, it is usually not a new lesson, it is a relearning. I'm a big believer in learning things multiple times until it actually sticks in the brain hole. And for me, one of the biggest things was leaning into accountability. And the vlogs in particular were my accountability because I was showing whoever wanted to watch effectively what I had or had not managed to accomplish. So when I was having my off weeks where I had DoorDash every single day, I had to own up to the fact that I had DoorDash every single day. It is what it is. But knowing that I had to, or knowing that I was going to show people what I had or hadn't done had definitely been helpful in holding me to doing the thing. In terms of accountability and such, obviously we can try and be accountable to those who those who love us, those who are closest to us, but oftentimes they're not the best accountability partners because they will just give you a pass because your happiness is, or like, that your immediate happiness, I guess, is important to them. And they still want to be your friend afterwards. So they don't want to like call you out on it. Not to say that anybody in particular called me out on things, but just knowing that I was going to show up on the interwebs to tell people, hey guys, so that goal I had about losing a whole bunch of weight? But anywho, the actual accountability of doing that and recording the process not only held myself accountable because I had to watch all that footage back and you're very much like confronted with the realities of your situation or whatnot, but knowing that other people were going to see it definitely helped for making me do the thing. Like if I have gotten to a day where it's like, oh, I just really don't want to do my exercise. Like, does it actually matter if I get my 100-day exercise streak? I'm like, you have shared this with too many people to let them down. Not that they would really like come into my DMs and be like, how dare you let your streak down? I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. Like, it's not going to be like that. People are very pleasant. But knowing that I didn't want to have to tell them that I didn't get the thing done, that was very helpful for me. I also found that being very intentional about planning out when things were going to happen, like not trying to load every single task that I wanted to accomplish into the first week, that was very helpful. So going through and scaffolding out to say, okay, the first thing you're going to focus on in week 1 is this thing. The thing you're going to focus on in week 2 is decluttering your whole house. Like every other goal can take a back seat because week 2 is decluttering your entire house. That was really good too. Just going through and being very mindful about the fact that you did not have to make the same amount of progress on every single goal every single week, because life isn't like that. There's other stuff going on. Some things are going to be more of a priority one week than they are the next. And to just like accept that and then lean into it, because you're going to end up making more progress than trying to like ham fist your way through making the exact same amount of progress every single week. Yeah. Let's see. Hopefully those continue. You found the vlogs really motivating. I'm glad. The vlogs are continuing, at least for this challenge, or like, round 2. So one to look forward to next week. Alrighty. We have another question. Alrighty. What works for me is when am I willing to blank, fill in the blank? Am I willing to sit on my yoga mat? Yes or no? Then I'm willing to do. Then am I willing to do some breath work? She can read. Yeah, this is throwback to that kind of question that we had before. If you can do at least part of it, then it's like, ask yourself the next point. Am I willing to do the next part? Am I willing to do the next part? Trying to just like build that up for yourself so that you kind of have little wins, little successes, action breeds action type of a deal. All right. One of my goals is to make a 5-year journal. Do you have any suggestions on what you would do differently from the one you have now? Mainly, it would be around the structuring of it. I think that giving myself 3 lines a day was fine, but I cut in too far on how much space I gave myself for those 3 lines. So I would probably restructure it a little bit so that I didn't have as much narrowing of the page. That is definitely something. So if you go back and have a look at the video where I set it up, just don't build it in so much. Give yourself the full 3 lines, or at least that's what I would do. And also, something I would do again, because I liked it, was not setting an expectation for what I was writing about. I just had to write about something. They didn't have to be, answering any particular question or set up to just be about a particular life area or anything like that. So I could write about just stuff that was going on, or I could write about pretty much anything. I want to put some little bats over here. That's why I'm fussing around with this, because we've got this little bat section. They're all individual stickers though, so I need to go pull them off individually. Yay! But thanks for the fun live. Thanks for being here while you could be. Always a pleasure to see ya. There we go. Tiny bat. I think I'd like put that one in here. It's pretty cute. And we'll put another tiny bat up the top there. I will say one of the best investments, which I didn't really pay for because it was part of a table kind of set up at Go Wild, but one of the best tools that I have for journaling is actually sticker tweezers, which when people were using them before I got them and I'd see people use them, I'm like, that's silly, you have fingers, just use your fingers. These make placement so much easier. But that's okay. The more you know type of a deal. Let's see. So, do you have any tips for tip-ins? Or could you point me to some videos that have a lot of tip-in ideas? I have a video on making tip-ins. I don't necessarily have a video on how to use them. I don't know. Yeah. Well, I guess it's technically a video on how to make and use them, but I don't necessarily have a video about tip-in ideas specifically, unless I do. Oh, this is a worry. We've gotten to the point where I have enough videos that I can't even remember what I have videos for. Oh no! But if you're curious about my tip-in video, it's that one that I've just sent through in a second once everything loads. But yeah, I don't have a specific video that is like a recommended kind of one for that, sorry. But hopefully the idea video helps, because there's a little bit of ideas in there. But let's see. Another question. I'm gonna scroll through, make sure that we do this one. We've done that one. And all right. So this one was one that was submitted before. I don't think we've talked about it, but the idea of choosing your goals if there are a lot of unknowns in your life currently. this is where I would be thinking about the kind of like, we talked about it before, but that prioritization of them. So it's like, what is the main priority or the main focus? What are the kind of like lesser focuses? And also combining that with the idea of giving yourself the permission to push out the deadline. Like, just because you have, 3 months to do something doesn't mean the full 3 months can be dedicated to the thing in question. So giving yourself that kind of permission that if life be life in, things come up and whatnot, you can push out the kind of end outcome you're hoping for yourself to a little bit later. You're not changing what you want for yourself. You're just changing when the expected kind of like return of that is. So that would be kind of like a main suggestion. And then just the trying to par down, not necessarily not commit to all of the goals that you want for yourself, because I wouldn't do that either. I get it. But just saying this one is the actual priority. So when I have time, if I have time, this is the first thing that gets worked on. Now, I want to put maybe some tape and then also a sticker down here. I think that would be kind of cute. Maybe a couple stickers, to be honest. I'm just using this one here is from the washi tape shop. These two were from the Archer and Olive Halloween box. I'm gonna put that so it goes here, and I'm gonna put it all the way to the top of the page so it kind of like hangs off of it a little bit. I'm gonna trim it. I'm not gonna leave it hanging off of it. That would be an interesting choice. Not my personal preference, but ooh. What journal do you recommend is best for lists, like tracking, logs, etc.? What's your favorite size? Ooh, that's a tricky question. It really depends, because if you're just talking lists, like solely just lists, a Traveler's is great. It's not my preferred size, though. I don't love a Traveler's in terms of other things, but if I was making a book of lists, a Traveler's would be great for that. If I was making one that also had like trackers and such, my tried and true is A5. I do love an A5, but currently I'm also really, really enjoying a B6. It really depends on what type of trackers and logs and such you want to put in though, because and also how big your handwriting is. There's a lot of nuance to this, but I find that an A5 is a very comfortable size in terms of having enough space on a page for most things and also being compact enough to be able to take around with me. I love a square because you get the height of an A5, but also the width of the length of an A5. Like, it's a square, right? So it is definitely a very nice size to work with as well. But I know that one also starts taking up more desk space. And if you don't have a lot of desk space to work in, then something more compact is more favorable. But yeah, solely for lists, a Traveler's is cool. If I'm putting trackers in there, Traveler's would not be my personal preference. But yeah. All right. You started a pocketbook for appointments and errands and lists. Yeah, pocketbook is quite good too for the compactness and the like portability of it, which is very, very helpful as well. All right, we had a question. We love a question. What's your advice to college students who also plan things in Bujos? How do I find the time? That's a great question. I think that it's gonna be a very unfavorable answer, but it is very true. It's prioritization, like what actually is worth your time, effort, and energy. Like, if there's, I'm thinking of it in terms of a creative kind of outlet for your journal as well here. So if you're not doing creative stuff in your journal, then this isn't really relevant. It's not really a problem. But if you are using your journal as a kind of creative tool at the same time and you like it being decorated and such, what are the easiest ways you can get that decoration in so that you still get the enjoyment factor, but you're not spending all of the time that you need for other things just on decorating your planner? We want to find that balance between like it's enjoyable enough and I like the way it looks enough that I'll actually use the thing, but it's not stealing so much time from the other things I need to do because, you're busy. Life's busy. You got stuff that you need to be doing here. What I would also think about is, if we think about it in terms of the MVPs, minimum viable pages type of a thing, what in particular is going to be the most helpful for you and for the stuff you need to organize? Like, sure, maybe a mood tracker looks really cool, but do you need that information? Is there either something else you could use that for that makes the information you're recording there more valuable to you and thus more worthwhile the effort you're putting in? Or is it something that you let go of and you don't need to put that in type of a deal. Oftentimes when we're thinking about stuff of like how do I have time for, this is for everybody, how do I have time to do XYZ, or like how do I balance the time needed for A, B, C, and D type deal. The question usually is less about how do I make time for these things and more about where can I make time for these things, or like what can I not do in order to have the time to do these other things. So if we think about it in terms of, I don't know, you get home at the end of the day, work was stressful, school was stressful, you're not feeling it, you're not feeling like doing much of anything else. You know you have goals and projects that you want to work on and they're important to you and all of that kind of thing, but you're just like, ugh. Well, then what could I scrap? What could I take away from my evening expectations that would give me more bandwidth to work on those things? Maybe instead of cooking the elaborate meal, I cook something that's, cheap, easy, quick. Like I'm thinking cheap in terms of time cheap here. It's still gonna do the nutritional thing. It's gonna give me the nutritional value and whatnot, but it's not going to take the entire evening to make and clean up from. That would be something I would be asking myself. Rather than doing all of the dishes to completion and perfection. And even if it says that I shouldn't on the package, what can I just chuck in the dishwasher? Like, just because something shouldn't go in the dishwasher doesn't mean it can't go in the dishwasher. Obviously, don't put things in the dishwasher that are going to break and shatter and then cause you a headache and a half later. But some people do put their frying pans in the dishwasher. Sure, is that great for the longevity of the frying pan? Probably not. But the frying pan's not going to break in the dishwasher, and it gives them a little bit more time in their evening to do other stuff. Like, where can I take shortcuts in such a way that I'm like okay with making that compromise? I shan't be putting my dishes in the dishwasher, but I also don't have to do the dishes. That's what Vogel is for. So I'm not saying it's like, where can I get a Vogel to do my dishes for me? That's also, I guess, an option, but anyway. Let's see. Someone who does not work anymore thanks to disability. When I'm struggling and depressed, I use, oh gosh, suspense. I want to know what it is that you use now. But we're just adding a little bit of decoration to this side panel here so that then it feels more complete, because Jess is allergic to white space. It's not her favorite thing, so she will get rid of it at any opportunity. I feel like I need another little sticker or something here so that then there's some visual interest. And it doesn't need to be a big thing. Maybe we can put in some little skulls, or we can put in this little candy. I think I'm going to put the little candy. Hee hee hee. There we go. So, hopefully, though, that has answered the majority of any questions people have about the challenge. And hopefully you guys are eager to get in and get stuff done with me and work on these things together. One of the questions that did get submitted before our stream, though, which is one that I would like to pose to you. All right, so if you're here on the replay, this is the question that I want you to answer in the comment section. Or if you're here live, I also want to hear it from you. What goal or goals are you most excited to work on for this quarter? Now, if I think about it in terms of the most excited, I think that for me, like right now, right this second, because I'm in the throes of it, it'll probably have to be my office reorganization. I'm just really excited to get that one, not necessarily finished, because as we said before, finishing is not something that works well with a perfectionistic brain, but soft finished, set up in a way that feels comfy and cozy and just like nice to be in and checks the boxes that I set for myself, because purpose first is what we're working with here. I am excited for that. Very excited for that. I'm also like I'm weirdly excited, I suppose, to recommit to my health goals, because although I did make some progress on my health goals in quarter 3, I also undid a lot of that progress at the end of quarter 3, as I was just feeling a little bit tired and not burnt out, but like I was not in the right headspace to commit to the actions necessary to do the things I wanted to do. So being able to get back to that, I am pretty excited about. I've already started that this week, notably, because my challenge for me personally started on Monday, and it's currently Thursday for me, but that's been going really well. Let's see. Oh, you're excited for digital photo declutter? Very fair. I have over 35,000 photos. I am also going to be doing a digital declutter, so I'm very looking forward to that. It will just give some really good peace of mind, I think, for having a bit more I don't even know, like, I'm gonna say breathing room in my folders, but they all organize into the top left corner, but hopefully you get what I mean there. That's a good one. I love that. Ooh, achieving your walking goals. I love that. I hope that that goes well for you. I'm really excited for walking outside again. I've been doing some of that this week, but we've just had a cold snap, so everything's freezing again. I'm like, okay, maybe not. We'll put that on pause, but no, we've got another one for walking. I love that. Yes. All right, getting the body moving. It's what the body likes. It's what the body needs. Let's see. This has been very helpful. I'm so glad. And you're excited to get your home decluttered. Oh, excellent. Yeah, my decluttering goal from the last quarter was one of the biggest accomplishments I feel I had. It felt so good. That one in particular, given its physical stuff, breathing room. Oh, yes. Let's see. Walking to the library twice a week and getting 8,000 steps total. Excellent work. We love that. Home decluttering is your scariest and the one you're looking forward to. Nice. Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that even a goal that scares you can still be something we're excited for. And I think that in a way, goals that scare us, it it's more exciting when you actually start working towards it and accomplishing things, because you're just proving to yourself that, like, you can do hard things and you can do scary things. And that's really, really cool. Let's see. Excited to be paying down some of your debt. Nice. I love a money goal. I'm a big on like saving and just like all of that. So I'm really excited that you're excited about that one, because that's really cool too. I have a couple on mine that I want to work on in terms of finances as well. Let's say recommit to waking up earlier so you can get more me time. Heck to the yes, we love me time. And I love that you've kind of like specified that spot that you're going to be carving that out for yourself, because having your me time is important. Your mental self will value this very, very much. Ooh, increasing your bench press. I would be eager to get into doing some like strength training and such. I don't think I'm going to be able to do like a lot of bench pressing this quarter, but it is certainly something I'm interested in. So that's really, really cool. Let's see. Staying on my carnivore diet. Excellent. I love it when we find an eating plan that works for us, and I'm hoping that that one works well for you. So that's really cool. Let's say getting a job. The market sucks. More excited. Daily creativity. Valid and fair. And I think that's the thing. It's like sometimes the goal that feels the most important isn't necessarily the one we're most excited about, but it is nice to have something that we're excited to work on alongside that. And that's also why I always pick multiple goals. I can't work on one thing at once because I love to have options. If I don't have options, the rebel brain kicks in. But best of luck with your job searching, because that one does sound like an important thing to work on. Let's see. So, starting your first journal, nice, with the goal of tracking health metrics. Excellent idea. We do have some videos on the channel that hopefully could help you with that as well. Let's see. You're allowed to be exhausted after a wedding. Thank you. I appreciate that. I was feeling, I do this every single time I have like a big project or a trip or whatever. I come back with the expectation that I'm just going to get straight back into it, and it never happens. As said, I have to learn things multiple times until they actually stick, and this was definitely one of those things. Let's see. Excited to make progress on house renovations. See, what I also love in all of us sharing our goals in here, yeah, maybe not excited, but determined to do better on weight loss. We have such diversity in the things that we're working on, but we're all working on them together. Like, if you're going to be part of the challenge, if you're going to take up the challenge with us, it's all good if your goals feel like a little out of left field or whatnot. It's okay if the things you want to work on aren't the same as what everybody else is working on, because they are yours, they are personal, and that is good. We just want to be able to celebrate your progress, right? So as said, we would love to have you with us. Check out the links in the description box. That one has the introductory video, and it also has the community. Come over, say hi. We want to have you there with us. Thanks for being here with me, though. It's such a pleasure to chat with you. Only got one spread set up, but it's cool. Progress is still progress, and I'm not going to snub my nose at that. Week 3, Jess will appreciate that she has a space to put down her tasks and priorities. Alrighty, gorgeous humans. I will see you next time. Thank you for being here.